Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Monsters with Monsters. We have a couple of our monsters who are going to be joining us a little bit later, but we did kind of lay out a couple of topics that we wanted to discuss this evening. First of which is going to kind of be, how do you help your nation continue growing and deal with different types of losses, right? You've got event losses. What do you do if you maybe lose a good R5? What do you do if you lose a whale? That type of thing. And, how do you kind of assist your nation with making it through those different scenarios? And I think we've got a few people in here who have played in multiple nations and might have been through some of that. So kind of interested to hear some thoughts. I know it looks like Lead God's here as well. Welcome, buddy. But I know this is one thing that in 785 we've gone through. They were, everywhere from Civil War to, the elephant in the room, which is Vegas. These are some pretty significant losses that the nation has had to weather the storm of. And what we've done is we've basically tried to prioritize, celebrate people working together, look for common ground between different folks and alliances, not try to force anyone's hand, but instead try to educate, bring people together, have a vision for what we want to do. And that's successfully brought a bunch of people into the nation. Obi, I see you're there in the audience. Would you have any insight on that?
I just came in, so I'm not even sure what you're talking about.
We are talking about kind of helping to guide a nation through different types of loss, right? You lose an R5, you go through a civil war, maybe you lose a whale. And I know you were there kind of around the time when Vegas went dormant. So I was wondering if you might have some insight.
I think you really got to start building that early. I mean, that's where the friendships and the camaraderie come into play that you build up, early game and through the game as you kind of replace players through, participation in events, joking in the alliance chat. I mean, there's an old saying that I think, Lead God has said and many others, a dead chat is a dead alliance. So I think if you keep all that, then you keep that continuity and, when people leave, you can kind of replace that. And I just think you just have to persevere. And if you built that, that camaraderie ahead of time, that that team family structure, then you can kind of get through that, even if it does lead to some losses. And you just kind of Monday morning quarterback it and talk about what you can do different and make it better for the alliance.
So it really sounds like just building a culture, right? And a culture is going to be larger than any one person. And if you've got that, then, if an R5 does decide to step down or step away, then I know I've even heard Lead God talk about this before, but he could step away and there's at least one or two people in the alliance that he could feel very, very comfortable giving the reins over to, because they've created that culture where they're all on the same page, right? So there's a sense of identity within that nation.
I'll tell you guys, losing players and losing leadership is like two totally different topics. I want everyone to really wrap their minds around, the style of players that come and go in the game. I think it's a part of the game that people are going to leave. People are going to be motivated in the beginning, demotivated by a loss or not getting their way with VIP. I mean, God only knows the reason why people quit the game these days. It could be outside life stuff. It could be one of a million things. But, I think that, a couple of things have already been said. You have to create a culture. I learned myself a long time ago, just in normal everyday life, that, I can only control my own actions and attitudes, not those of others. So I put, that little bit into building the alliance, and, they can kind of come and go as they please until they, get to a point where, they have to go for whatever reason. I think it's a lot easier to lose whales and active players and things like that than it is to lose leaders. But I also think it's a great opportunity for others to step up when leaders do walk away, especially when it's the bigger cities and people are really leading the alliance. Losing leadership is so different, you know, especially if they were somebody who is the preparer, the planner, the whatever. I think that whale type players leak their way into leadership, and they're really not leaders. They're just spending type players. So be careful of that as well. You know, you don't want just egos in leadership, right? It's definitely something that can hurt a lot of different angles that we look at in this game. So, these are all things that you want to take in consideration when replacing said players or leaders for that matter. It's not easy. It's definitely it's easier to replace players than it is leaders for sure. You know, but in my experience of 425 anyway, we've had leaders that were recruited, and we've had leaders that have risen to the occasion. And it's been cool to see on both fronts. And then you have some people that came in like when Mental first joined us, he wasn't a leader, and he didn't ask to be a leader. He just wanted to come kill shit and have fun. And I don't want to even say like he worked his way into being a leader. He just like somewhat earned it just by, the way he was in chat. And, obviously I asked him prior to, giving him an R4 status, but like these are the style of things that come into play, whereas there's definitely a couple of other players that have been recruited to 425 where, maybe they've led in other aspects, like Acid from 360. I know was one of their leaders from that particular nation. So, but when he came to 425, again, didn't request to be a leader or anything like that. I think a lot of these players find their own roles as well. So, and I'll tell you, as a leader myself, it's a relief to not have to lead sometimes. Whenever that is, or when there's people picking up the slack. So it's nice to have that whatever that crutch to lean on. Enoch, can you read this, sir? I don't know what that is.
Well, kind of, I guess, moving on a little bit from the losing a leader part, or maybe even losing a player part. What about losing like major priority events, that type of thing? Maintaining the culture in an alliance and kind of working through difficult losses. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, I think everybody, eventually should be able to, table a loss. I know there's people out there fighting for that win rate and, undefeated this or that. I'm of the capacity, eventually everybody will lose. And eventually everybody will, probably suffer that feeling of a loss. And I think it's also exactly how you're led. I think those losses are meant to get you to the next level. And, everyone deals with them a little bit differently. I tend to get quiet, for a day or two, and then I come out with, a couple of different, I like to call them tactics or, things like that. That'll, hopefully get us better for next time. And it usually always, revolves around participation and, making sure people are online, during the times where we're supposed to be. And, I think it's really just that, building that place where, I don't know, where everybody knows your name. It's like you got friends, you got what we call family, you got those things and you want to show up for each other. You want to make sure that, that that you're holding up your side of the bargain, and I think that regardless of what style of player you are, you have a role. And and I think everybody should fill up their role. I think they should fill up their little pot with the things that make the team better, whatever that is. And if you're sitting around doing nothing in your alliance, all the way down to not doing anything on kill event Sundays, or I think it's funny that people skip the farming phase. I think all those things are funny. It's like, you're too good to farm. It's like, motherfucker, I farm. I farm wheat like fast as shit, boy. And like, it's crazy to me that some people just don't do those things. So I like to just breed in an environment where I don't know, man. People want to help each other. People want to show up for each other. And when you don't, I'd also like to think someone's going to point it out and call you out. Hey, man, where were you at? Why weren't you there for Elite War? Why weren't you there for Polar? Why weren't you there for, the battle after, Doom on Sunday, right? Like, those are all those, and some people don't like being called out on that, and that's okay too. But I'd also like to think we're consistent, so regardless of what style of player you are, whether you're a leader or a whale, an R1, R2, it doesn't matter. I think everybody, again, has very similar roles. And I mean, to me personally, R1 to R3 is essentially the same, and I know the game kind of, gives us those rankings, quote unquote. And I do also notice as a tidbit that Japanese players actually do care, about rankings, R1, R2, R3. But the long and short of it is I think we're all on the same page. I'd like to think everyone in the alliance, again, has a role, and everybody should be able to rise to that occasion. So, essentially in GFK anyway, like, we have leaders and then we have everybody else, and, everybody has similar expectations. I think the leaders are just the ones that, kind of point us in the direction, and my leaders are, I don't know, I think, again, they all have their own little specific roles and they all know what they do for the most part, and I think a good handful of our leaders are just example setters. They're not necessarily telling anybody what to do or anything like that, but, they're there in every event. They're ranking, and I'm not talking about people that are ranking just because, like, they can recruit a lot, right? Like, shit like that. Like, no, they're out there, they're fighting, they're doing their thing, they're finding targets, they're ranking without, having to, call a whale or, all of those things that just happen organically in the game. So, specifically in 425, like, again, I think it's leadership and everybody else. I do have to say that a lot just because we have a good amount of Japanese style players. So I have to continue to reiterate that, R1 to R3 is essentially the same. And, I do, kind of give a little bit to, like, the R3 thing just because of, like, the flags and things of that nature. But at the end of the day, like, we're so far from Civil War in 425 that those style of thinkings, like, really don't play a part for us, unless something were to change, for whatever reason. So I think that there's a lot of ways that people can deal with certain, quote, losses, whether it be people, cities, or leaders. I think if you're one of those nations that do compete at a high level, and you lose, an amazing leader, I think that will hurt things. But I also think that, if everybody else picks up the slack and, a couple of other people can step up, I think you should be able to really not skip a beat other than missing your homeboy or homegirl, when they're no longer playing the game. So I think that bringing everybody to this culture, again, of the same mindset, breeding a ground of helping each other and, rising to the next level and, something to look for in the future. Like, all of those things are, places where you have to, be ahead of, and it's really on your leadership, because ultimately, if you're losing people because of, one of a million reasons, probably it's got a lot to do with, some of the other ancillary things that are happening around in the game as well. You know, a lot of the times when people quit because of quote personal reasons, it might also be because they just got fucking zeroed. You know, it might also be because their girlfriend in the game told them to pound sand, and it's really a dude. You know, it might also be because of a million other different stupid reasons. You know what I'm saying? So, if we're breeding that ground of who's next, who's stepping up next, whatever that is. I've personally lost some great people in 425 over the years, and I think every nation has, lost some great people over the years, especially if you've been around for, 3+ years, like a lot of us have. So over the years, it's an organic process. So if I can make any suggestions on losing people, and you are a nation that, likes to compete and, likes to do all of those things, I would do your absolute best just to make sure that you can keep the cities that are around. Don't be like 785 and have the random 4 cities that you can't get access to. Granted, Vegas might be hanging around for a like a merger or something like that, and very, very well might come back to play if that were to be the case. But let's just assume that he's quit the game and you got 4 cities just hanging around over there somewhere. That would suck, for 785 specifically, moving into, years down the line. But so if I can make a suggestion, C36, C37, whatever, doesn't necessarily matter. If that guy or woman is leaving the game for whatever reason, just try to keep the city, For many years while we weren't necessarily recruiting, we would just, continue to recycle the city until we created a farm. I think everybody's probably got one weak guy in the alliance where, you could take that semi-decent C37 and, give it to that guy and eventually make a farm, right? So that's something I would definitely suggest. And, and if there is a whale type player in there, and you got an extra couple of bucks, I've personally bought in, 5-10 cities easily in 425 over the years. A couple $100 here, a couple $100 there, just to make sure that, cities are available for new players. Number one, we do recruit in 425, but, even if it wasn't to recruit players, and we didn't do that until, recently, right? It was to just get to the next guy and to make sure that we would, be able to keep these cities, around. Because if they quit the game and the city quits with them, it's probably, going to catch up with you over time. So do yourself a favor. And, again, if there's a whale type player, or leader for that matter, I wouldn't turn away from buying a handful of cities. I wouldn't buy the cities and just hang on to them if you're not recruiting guys. Like, just let the cities, kind of die out. If you can get access to them, frenzy zero them and put them on a shelf. But, I personally have a guy who manages those, and if you don't, you should probably get one, the dormy cities, right? So, like, I personally don't like to deal with those things. As a leader, I have other people that deal with those things, but I definitely will, go out of my way and make sure that I'm messaging these players and making sure that those cities can, at least go to use somewhere. So that's something I would definitely suggest, is making sure you at least get the city of the, of the player who's retiring for whatever reason. A lot of the times these, if you get zeroed or whatever, some people like to quit at that juncture. It's only troops, everything else doesn't die. So, it's nice to grab those cities, when they're on their way out. So I would definitely be doing those things. But I think the loss that everybody should really think about and be prepared for is, if in fact you're to lose your true leaders, and make sure that there's a couple of people that are ready to step up. So, I don't know, maybe we can think outside the box on how do you, a lot of the times those leaders are pretty, set, for some time. So I don't know, maybe have a rotation thing. I did that in the past. There was a time where 425's R4s, were pretty set in stone. Not until Billy and Blitz, wanted to, retire from the game? Did we have to kind of shake things up? Um, well, Billy actually got sick, like physically. So I think he was the first one that I started to, do that with was, you know, rotate some other players that were, stepping up across other events or whatever it was. But, you want to be able to reach out and make sure that your 10 or so leaders that you have in place, are always going to be filled. So, if you do have some people that are, potentially, going to be quitting the game or, whatever the case is, stepping down from leadership, you want to make sure that you have these, the next man up mentality, because it'll hurt. It'll hurt if you don't. I can only imagine. I know we had some issues with leadership in 357, but that was more of nobody wanted to pick up the slack. Nobody really wanted to put in any real effort. I think the R4 role is a role that is above even some of the, I don't know, the most active warriors that you have in your alliance, especially those solo guys that like to hunt for hours and hours. I mean, those are hard to come by as well, but a true leader is so difficult to come across, especially a true planner. Like these are things that are just very, very much needed in the game. So when those style of players leave, it almost hurts a little. But 425 has been super great with not having to lose those style of people. We lose the warriors more faster than we lose the planners and the preparers. But in the grand scheme of things, I think that loss is a part of the game, life, all of those things, right? Like any type of alpha male or I don't even want to say alpha male, but any type of super successful individual, they have L's on the table. They have L's in their background, and those are probably what risen them to the occasion. I know that's, for me anyway, that's happened. I got plenty of losses in my life, both in the game and out of the game. So, like, those are things that you should take with grace. You should learn from, and try not to allow those things to happen again. And see how good you can fare the next go around. Like I'll use you lose 904 and 910. That little GC right there. I'm sure 904 is feeling a little certain way right now based off of losing that GC. So this is that, right? Not to use them as an example and point at them, but like this is that, right? They just went through a good loss. How are you going to react? And I love 904. They're one of my favorite nations up there. And but how are you guys going to react? And that'll be, and maybe even next season they don't even win. Like who knows, right? But how are you going to react? How are you going to, come back the next turn? Like there's a lot to be said about that. So I'm anxious to see what'll happen next season with those guys, and stupid little things like that, because those losses are difficult. I remember losing our little GC when we got kind of taken advantage of by some other nations, and it didn't feel good. So how do you come back? How do you I think that's how you get through that stupid stuff, and it's also how you can build a good team, because others see it. Others see it, others react to it, and again, it's that culture that you're building. And it should be of knock me down, I'm going to keep getting up. That's the culture that I grew up in anyway, and I try to install in the game and in my life. It's like, all right, I'm going to get knocked down, but all right, watch out when I get up, bro. You better get out of the way, So I think those are the style of mentalities that a lot of the guys that I know in the game that I respect, like the 5, 6, 7s of the world. Like I'm cool with a couple of their leaders, and I think a lot of the leadership and that it's at a high level thinks very similarly. Using Baby as an example of 255, I can't tell you how many times I've reached out to her over the years and asked suggestions, and what I thought was the answer, right? I feel like that same pace mentality goes such a long way. And everybody at the top that's, doing things at a very high level, I feel like they all think the same way, and not to say that if you don't think like me, you're trash, but I think that the ones that are, competing at a high level and doing everything from the recruiting front all the way down to the leadership front. Those are the ones I think that are all, on the same page. And then if you start to, peel back the onion layers, from, some of these other nations out there, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, I could probably sit here and fucking nitpick every nation around me and tell you what's wrong with them, you know? And I could probably also tell you that if they made this change, that change, this change, how much better they'd be in these few areas, especially around my handful of globes that we mess with down in 425 anyway. I don't think there's anybody from 255 up to, I don't know, 700 where I probably couldn't tell you, yeah, they're good or they're trash or, this alliance isn't doing what this alliance, so I think everybody has their own little flavor, and I think it always has to do with, the leaders of that nation. Because I'm not a fan of the if you don't have a whale, we can't win, mentality. And it's hard for me to say that because I'm a whale, right? But I don't know. I just see a lot of nations out there without big whales, and they still win, or find a way to win and find a way to compete. Like, sure, you're not winning like a GC, and you're not getting in the top 10 of like Polar, right? But you're still winning your matchups in head of state. You're still getting 40, 50 people together online at a time to come through and on an attack. Like, all these things are happening. So I feel like these, the lost style of conversation is all based on, what's left, and how you react to it. I think the reaction of losing a player should be, best of luck with whatever you have going on, man. The door is always open for you to come back, but like, that's it. I don't know. I think I've said bye to a good amount of players over the years, and it's always pretty much been me messaging them like, "Hey, man, it was a pleasure, gaming with you for a little while, and if you ever, want to come back, man, we'll find you a city and fucking kill it, bro. Blah 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 blah." That's really about it. I try not to harp on it or hang on it too much, and really just try to continue trucking in the direction that we're chugging in. I think that a lot of these nations who kind of hang on to it or whine about it or, whatever, I think that's probably not the best style of attitude, because those are things you can't change. I control my own actions and attitudes, not those of others. So when I hear somebody's quitting the game, my first question is what's happening with the city, because usually I'm like the last one to hear if somebody's quitting the game, unless it's somebody that's close to me. Right. But what's happening with the city? Oh, it's going to so-and-so. There's already a plan. All right, cool. Fucking, I'll wait for the message to come through the game where they tell you that they're leaving and it's been a pleasure. And, I'll shoot my handshake emoji out there and, have a nice day and keep it moving. Right. So, and I think that's a great thing that Holbrook did, out there in 785. You got to keep it moving. So using 785 as an example with the Vegas situation, you guys just kept it moving, and you've built a great team and the nation is able to recruit and all those things, even without the whale type Vegas player, so like these are all, really good signs as to, again, great leadership, good people, camaraderie, like-minded, right? These are the things that bring, the new recruits in. So you can fill those cities that are sitting up on the shelf or not sitting on the shelf, right? Like nations like 785 don't have any cities available, nothing decent anyway, unless you want like a C-33 hanging around just to talk shit with the boys.
I actually have a couple, so hit me up.
Oh, well, there you go. Chaos Queen, tell you what time it is. But,
Hey,
there's...
Yo, let me jump in when you wrap up this current thought. I want to talk a little bit about
Jump in, brother. Jump in. Do your thing.
Okay, sweet. So in 459, I lived through several R5s retiring. Both times I had to take over R5, which is my least favorite job in the game, and found somebody else to replace me afterwards. Part of the issue is I'm just not a great R5. I've seen what great R5s are, and I know I'm not one. But there's two things that I've experienced. First is when an R5 leaves and it's known, there's some planning that can go into it. And then also I've had a sudden R5 withdrawal. First, when you know the R5 is going, I would typically be the first to find out. We would have conversations, and I think when someone who is, a key player to your alliance leaves, there's an emotional, void, and then there's also a practical void. The emotional void is you're losing a friend, you're losing a mentor, you're losing somebody who was the guy you could count on to rally, or the person that you could count on to rally the troops when people were down. You got to deal with that emotional void, but there's also the practical void. And the practical void can be easier to articulate what exactly you're losing. What was the R5 doing? Were they running specific events? Were they in charge of maintaining contact with the other alliances? You can break down in a list, what was that R5 kind of the point person for? And then you got to figure.
Let me jump in there really quick, Big Bird. If your R5 isn't a strategist, man, you better fucking start re-electing a motherfucker, right? It's and I wanted to recently we just had a nation that lost their R5 that was very good. Was it 564? Do you remember?
Yedic,
that's 5. Yeah, Yedic. Yeah. So I don't know if there's somebody from 564 because I know you guys recently went through the change of the R5. If you want to toss in there when Big Bird's done, I wouldn't mind hearing what you guys have to say. But continue. Yeah, strategists is R5. Go ahead.
Yeah. So the R5 at the time, his name was Chief. Chief and I had messages written that we talked about. And so when he wrote his goodbye message, I immediately followed that with a message of, here's what's happening short term for leadership transition. Here are the people who are taking over these responsibilities. And that part is the practical part. And the key there is you let everybody know in your alliance that there is a plan, we are okay, and we're going to keep moving forward. And I think kind of people knowing that we're almost like ahead of the transition, that we've thought ahead, that we have a plan in place, that this is, we're not going to be flying by the seat of our pants in the short term. I think that gives some reassurance to everybody at a time when you really want to promote, as the remaining leaders, you want to promote stability and confidence in the future. Another piece of this is kind of the emotional piece. And I think that it's okay for you to acknowledge that you're losing a player who is the type of person that's impossible to replace. We wish that person well. If that person is interested, you can say like they're going to come back and play some events with us later on down the line, just to kind of show again that there's a coherence or a cohesion moving forward. And so I think the main points there are have a plan, have messages ready to go in response to the R5 announcing their retirement. And in that message, you need to project confidence, stability, and, a positive outlook in the future. So let everybody know there is a plan in place. We are good. We've got it. And we're going to keep moving forward.
Communication, just to throw out there, is 100% key. If the R5 is the one that we're kind of honing in on being replaced, obviously they're going to be sending a message to the alliance, whether it's their goodbye message or what. It's going to take some of, a good handful of people probably, as a, oh my God, what's happening? But just as Big Bird has said, if there's a plan, if there's a light at the end of the tunnel and everybody's prepared, I think you don't skip a beat, man. I think that it's something that If you got the right people there, you're going to go right to the next step, and and you're looking for the next guy to rise to the occasion. You know.
So can I chime in on this?
Please do.
So I actually was talking to your R5, Big Bird, that I just actually kind of realized this weekend. But one thing that she had said was, she was like, well, I'm not surprised. Like, I don't really want people to know, like you should build your nation as a leader. If you're running and you're strategically building this nation, you should build it to where it should run without you. Right? Like that, to me, if as a leader, just like at work, right? At work, I want to build my team and create these, procedures and have all these people in the right places and all the communication so clear that if something falls, the other person knows how to pick it up. Like you should be able to run it. And when she said, she goes, well, if I am not if I had to go away or something, they should be able to go on without me. And to me, that was like, from a leadership standpoint, like that is, and I guess I know we're talking about losing something, but that if you're going to be a leader and you want to be that intricate and you're that headline, I feel like that was an important message that I got from her. Now, mind you, I'm an R4, R5 of R1s, but that spoke so loudly to me.
Yeah, there's definitely a couple leaders, and Yorsie's one of them. I think this morning we were kind of talking on Woody's podcast. Yorsie's awesome. Yorsie's been around for a long time, and I think that there is a special place for people like that. I have an amazing Japanese woman as an R4. Her name's Panda, and I tell you, if I wanted to give up R5, because me as an R5, and I'll make, I don't know, maybe I tell, what the plan is. Like GC, for instance, hey guys, I don't want to do too much moving around because we have a big elite war on Sunday. I don't want to lose that, obviously, blah, 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 but nobody's really going to fight us. So maybe get like 10 or 15 of like the other guys that, from another alliance, as opposed to, doing a massive, nation move type deal. And that's all I have to say. I look in the leader chats, I can kind of follow along as the R5 and see the steps being taken and, spreadsheets or whatever kind of coming through the different chats. But the long and short of it is I don't have to do anything other than set the tone. This is what we're doing. And then it's like, boom, an army of people go out and fucking make it happen, And I think that I'm fairly certain yours is pretty similar, But I do think that getting Yorsy on the podcast would be pretty cool. I don't know if that's possible or not with voice, but anywho, it's one of those things where these style of leaders, man, are just so great, Panda, for me, I'll just continue to use Panda because of my own experience. I don't have to do anything. I don't know. Maybe I got a good one and a real one, but in reference to preparation and preparedness, like I don't have to do anything other than provide the strategic, note on how we're going to be, getting this thing done. And I'd like to think that it works a majority of the time, So these are, I don't know what I'd do without a couple, but I do know that these are the style of players that continue to promote, continue to talk, and still enjoy the game. I think it's harder for the people who've been around a lot longer. I tend to put, I don't know, like nation, let's say like 950 and down. Like we've been around a little while now, and I think that, sticking around for more than a year and a half in a mobile game is something I don't want to be proud of, but it's not easy, right? And to be committed and things like that, because this is a commitment. I don't care what you call it. If you're playing this game for more than a handful of months, you're eventually, going to be committed to something, whether it's carrying a shield on a certain day or time or, whatever, you guys hear what I'm saying. So at the end of the day, like 2-3 years into it, everybody should, want to be on the same page and all of those things. So yeah, I mean, as Big Bird was kind of saying, like I watched the 459 stuff happen, right? I remember those things. Like I remember, I don't know, whatever. It wasn't that long ago, but like I remember, how that took place. Like in 357, very similarly, we lost Rusty, we lost Glaren. Glaren was probably one of the best leaders that I've ever come across. Glaren was the main reason I went to 357 outside of Rusty, was to learn from Glaren. Like he was, in my opinion, still one of the best. So yeah, those style of people, they, I'd like to think that they, they attract, and they teach, and those are the style of leaders that I've come across over, and then when they left, you have to find replacements, and that's when I started talking to like Bodizi and Baby and, reaching out to others in the game because I was starting to lose the people I looked up to, and I think that's when I probably became more active on, on all of these different Discord servers. I know that Rusty brought me into Barry server, because I was only on Woody server for like the longest time. And, talking a little shit to Raz, I feel like was like the nuts and bolts of it, So when I started getting into other people's servers, there's probably a lot to do with losing players, because we were losing players in 357, specific, players like R5s and R4s. And, I think I was searching for, new mentors or whatever you want to call it. And when you do that, whatever, people show up, man. So I've gotten some great relationships from Discord alone, So if you are, one of those leaders and a lover of the game, just like you're listening to this podcast or otherwise, something you should consider, because there's some good minds over here. And I know, like, I was talking a little bit of shit to Pickle earlier on Woody's podcast, and it was more like, all right, like you gotta come and talk a little shit, and and everyone's gonna be all right, But I think.
Come on, man! I've been sitting on mute the whole time. Don't bring me into this.
Oh no, you're good, brother. You're good. It's good to talk shit with each other.
Well, I think people learn when we talk shit because the truth comes out when you're angry.
Well, you're so, not to get you talking, because that's probably a bad thing, but,
Wait,
like
you can't get me talking.
You're searching for answers, which is cool, which is cool. You're searching for
only
answers.
point I was trying to bring up earlier, Lead God, the only thing I was trying to figure out earlier, and I thought maybe this would be a discussion tonight. Your nation and your leaders set rules, and we follow them. And then when you were like, tell everybody open up a shield, in my head, I'm like, fuck yeah. Like, this is how you get people online. Open up your
that's
shield.
not what we're talking about.
Hey,
Yeah, sorry.
I was not trying to be disrespectful to you.
No, you're good. I think that we're
bringing up the topic of earlier. That changes the game.
Shut the fuck up.
Hey, I think, Pickles, let's see if we have some time at the end once we get through kind of our list of topics. And
I'm
even if we're not
cool
live,
with muting. I'm sorry.
No worries, man. It's all good. I think the next piece of this is what happens if you lose a big leader suddenly. In my experience, the reason that happens is it's not like they've lost the love of the game. Something has happened at home, and they need to leave and they need to get out quick. So you don't have the time to plan and do it kind of in an optimized way. So when that happened to me in 459, again, I was one of the first to know, but I did not have a long lead time. So talked to the guy, we figured out a plan for the city, and I want to touch on this city planning afterwards. But basically, he was sending out his message, and I just sent out a message right after that said, guys, I'm grieving right now. This is somebody who was somebody who's been with us or been with me since the early days of 459, and we are going to have a plan. We're going to figure this out. I need a little bit of time to grieve, but don't worry, stay tuned. And again, you can't, you're not able to give people the same reassurance that there is a plan already in place, but you at least can reassure them that a plan is being made and there will be a plan and that their leaders are working on it. And what I would say is really important in those sudden departures is everybody in the alliance, whether they be R4 down to R1, that you have a personal connection with, you reach out to those guys and girls and say, we need you right now. We need you to step up your online presence. If it's on Discord, if it's in Alliance chat, we need you being a force of positivity and stability right now. And when that happened, I had I want to say it was, 10 to 15 players who have been around with me in SKL since the very beginning. And I messaged them in a group and I said, this is going to be a little bit of a difficult time. The way we make this as easy as possible and mitigate the damage that a sudden departure can cause is we all step up. We become very visibly present and, we kind of act as a bulwark against, negative feelings of concern about the future of the alliance and that sort of thing. Because one of the other things that can happen is when one person leaves, more people may leave.
Dude, I took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say that. It's like, be careful with those things. And that's perfect because that exact thing will happen. If you let the chat go silent, if you let the leadership be silent, and if you don't give those reassuring things, you can bet your ass others will follow. And if, even if it's a personal thing for that matter, like you're discussing, you can bet others wow, he's leaving. I've been thinking about it for 6 months now. This is probably a good time for me to go to, and man, that can just really start a wild shit storm.
Yeah. So I think, and that's in those sudden departure moments, it's not just your leaders. It's the people who even R1, R2, R3 are the folks who are super active in chat. And maybe they've died off a little bit because, you guys have been playing together for several years and kind of that initial excitement of a new nation has died down a little bit. I was reaching out to people in game on Discord. We had our little crew of OG players. And it was like, guys, we need you right now. I understand people have lives. I understand that people have other stuff going on. So I'm not saying you have to do this, but I'm saying to the extent you can engage more with the game and be a force of positivity and stability, that we need that. And so, I think, but the things that I would call out there are what LG said about kind of, you want to be, preventing the dam from bursting when one player leaves. You don't want that trickle to turn into a flood. But also, you want to get a message out quick that's a placeholder and just says there will be a plan. We are working on it. And then you at least buy yourself a little bit of time to come up with a plan, because I personally think it's better to admit that you're working on a plan than to come in with a half-cocked plan that is open to attack. So buy yourself a little bit of time and get a good, solid plan in place that addresses a lot of the issues caused by, I don't want to call it a power vacuum, but the person departing. And I'm sorry, I am on the street in New York right now, so you guys might be hearing car noises in the background.
Yeah, I thought Raz was parking your car, bro. I didn't know,
I got to run inside real quick, but if people want to riff on that, I've got some thoughts about city planning as well. Just give me a minute.
All right, come back. I think that there is a big place for everybody to understand, regardless of the topic being losing a player or otherwise. Guys, man, you gotta have a place, a breeding ground of communication. There is no relationship without communication. So wherever your team is communicating, whether it's Discord or Discord servers or fucking this podcast or the Alliance chat, however you guys are talking, man, do it and do it often. Talk shit, make a couple of comments in the Lions chat about whatever's going on, just to breed that place of communication. Because if people are talking, again, people can be held accountable, people can learn, people can be all of those things, and I just can't press enough that the regardless of leader, R1, the whatever, I can tell you that probably the 3 or 4 most active talkers in my alliance, they are not leaders. They are not fucking leaders. They are, whatever. They're warriors. They're ready to fucking goers. And those are the chatty Cathys, but those are the guys who keep the chat fire. You got to have the inappropriate guy. You got to have the shit talker guy. You got to have the chaos queen type, right? Like, I feel like every alliance has one of those, crazy high energy females, right? Like, or you should, if you don't, like, get you one, right? Because like those are all those style of, I don't know. I feel because I have the same style players in both 4-2-5 and 3-5-7. It's crazy, my panda in 4-2-5 is Yao in 3-5-7. Identical person, just one's Chinese, one's Japanese. That's the only difference, in my opinion, in their name, obviously. But like, they're the same person, and the chat is the exact same. The most people talking in that chat are the ready to goers, and those style of players. So I feel like most other, I feel like it's a trend, So you have that, you have those people, right? You got the shit talking Russian guy in there somewhere, maybe, he's a little inappropriate with everybody. You got the one guy who definitely wants to be racist, right? Like, come on, we all got that guy, right? Like, so anywho, the game chat, or again, however your team is communicating, because I am aware of a few teams that like solely communicate on Discord when they're not like in game or in event. So I think that's cool too. But anywho, however you guys communicate, man, that is probably the best place to breed, that community that we're kind of talking about. 100 million %. I can't tell a better place.
So I do want to just, and it's kind of a shout out really quick. I'll make it quick, but speaking of leadership, I was able to, trying to find those people that really hone in on those positions. But I was lucky enough to be able to play GC with 858, and we did it on Discord in VC, and I don't even know how many people. I mean, it was probably like over 20 of them on VC, and they're all muted, and their R5 is running commands. And as he's running, first of all, his voice is like of a god. So that was pretty hot. But like everything he did, he was running in commands, and whether we lost or whatever, like he was super positive, and he was saying, "Great job, guys." Everything was like, there was just this like, it was such a presence of leadership and positivity and great communication with the team, and trying to uplift everybody, even in the moments of when things might go bad. It was that solid constant. And that's like, we talk about, those people that you want, and what you want to run your nation, your alliance. That was just, I have to give a shout out to Odie from 858 for that whole leadership moment. So that was it. Sorry.
No, you're good. It's definitely what sets the game apart, and it's definitely what sets apart the high level teams, and I think we've had the leadership conversation on this podcast so many times over the years. You know, back from when Woody was doing it, even when Raz was doing it, like there's such a presence of leaders that, and they make the difference in the game, you know, and there's not a, there's not an easy way to replace them when they do leave. And, you know, you have to be prepared for it. But, you know, I think you can create this breeding ground of, you know, where people don't want to leave unless there is, a family emergency or something going on in the personal life. You know, it's kind of my experience anyway. You know, I mean, I enjoy the game still. So it's probably another reason why I'm here. But at the end of the day, like these are style of places where, you know, I think in both my nations I have great friends and good leaders on both sides. I think that some of the nations, you know, even turning it down to just like an in-nation thing, sometimes you don't have enough leaders for second and third alliances and, you know, things like that. I've seen people take their R4s to go and lead the second alliance and kind of, tone down their own team to potentially help the next. And I don't necessarily love those style of thoughts, but, you know, everyone tries to, you know, save whoever they want to save out there. But I think that, the amount of leaders that are potentially available in any one nation is thin. You know, true leaders, you know, real ones that step up, you know, after a loss can, you know, not point fingers and breed positivity, you know, because after a loss, the leadership is needed, you know. I can only imagine, you know, not to pick on 904 again, but I can only imagine what's going on over there right now. They expected to win another one, you know, and, you know, and they didn't. So what's going on over there right now, you know, could be a large KPI on how they, you know, boat in the future. I'm only going to assume that the leaders are doing what they need to step it up and, you know, and, you know, make everybody, quote, happy, right? Whatever that looks like. You know, you got to, you know, take the good with the bad and, you know, and rise to the occasion, you know, on the next go round, whatever that looks like. So I think there's really good opportunities for any and all nations, you know, after a loss to, you know, whatever, pick up the spirit, right? But it's ultimately, you know, that energy, that motivation, it starts with the people that are talking, you know, and anybody and everybody is able to talk in chat, right? You can't chat ban, you can't mute people in chat and in AC. So I think that all of that motivation, all of that camaraderie is on everybody's shoulders. People like to sit around and wait for leaders to talk. Man, try and stay away from that. You know, I mean, obviously you want leaders to talk, you know, during war times and, you know, during event times or leading into event times for strategic planning. But outside of that, man, everybody should be chatting it up. You know, I don't know if you guys have ever, I'll use American military as the example here, but, you know, there's a chain of command and things like that. But when those guys are just hanging out, you know, in the barracks or, you know, or whatever, they're all the same, you know. They're wrestling around the same. They're talking shit the same. They're, you know, they're throwing food at each other the same. They're, you know, they're doing all that shit the same. So I try, I guess, to take that same mentality, I guess, just organically and naturally into the alliance. Everybody should be talking. Everybody should be chatting it up, you know, while we're on downtime, you know. But when it's wartime, sit down, buckle up, shut the fuck up and listen and react, you know, and that's how it should be going down. So I think anyway.
Yeah, LG, let me jump in on, you know, dealing with a big loss. I love 459, but we had our fair share of wins and losses, so I maybe have more experience with this than you do. Here are some things that I would say served me well when we were, you know, when we were dealing with kind of an emotional loss. My first thing was leaders in the chat when it's happening, when it's getting down to the final minutes. Leaders, you need to stay positive and you need to stop people from finger pointing and being super negative, complaining. Like, you need to set the tone. The way you respond to a loss is a question of mental fortitude, and it is very easy for an alliance to fall into complaining and bickering at those low points. It is leadership's job to exemplify the mental fortitude that you want everyone to display in those difficult moments. So that's kind of, as it's happening, that's what I'm thinking about as a leader. And that's what I tried to instill in other leaders in our group in SKL. We are the examples. We have to be the best of us. We need to not indulge our own desires to be petty and point fingers, because you know what? Some losses, there are some fingers to be pointed. Some losses, it can really be, you can really target specific moments where things shifted or went the wrong way. But as leaders, you got to rise above that, and you got to have the mentality, and you need to voice the mentality that, a void war does not come down to the final battle or a big loss near the end. A void war is a collection of all the fights. And we don't point fingers. We're a family. We are going to suffer through the losses, and we're going to celebrate the wins together. So I think about that right in that moment, or in the middle of the event when you can tell things are going wrong. Immediately after, or shortly thereafter, I would normally try and send a message that says, hey, this was a tough one, and acknowledge that this was difficult. We're going to have some conversations at the leadership level. We're going to then open up those conversations to kind of the whole group, and we're going to then keep talking about it as leaders. But, for right now, lick your wounds, take some time, and we're going to come back to this in a day or two when, kind of this cloud of loss is not hanging directly over our heads, and we're going to channel this into something productive. And, these losses are an opportunity for alliances to come out swinging, and for alliances to, kind of build the bonds between them stronger. And I urge leaders to think about these things as an opportunity. Then, in the leadership conversation, you guys got to have, in my experience, the leadership conversation is kind of behind closed doors. Everyone can be pretty honest. We're not necessarily pointing fingers per se, but we're going to be very blunt and very candid with each other, because everybody's earns the right to speak in those leadership conversations and to say what they want to say. And, we're going to be respectful to each other, right? Because we're family members, and that's how you treat each other, is with respect. But we need to have a really blunt, open, honest conversation about what went wrong and what we need to do to fix it. I do think after you kind of do that initial conversation with leadership, you need to open it up to the full team. You need to give people an opportunity to, vent their frustration, give some suggestions, because, you've got 80, 90 other players who have been playing this game for a while. They're smart players. They've got eyes. They're going to see some things that you guys miss. The only thing you need to do with that larger group conversation, there's two things. One, you can break it up into smaller groups, like groups of 20, and kind of, which allows you to kind of focus the conversation, and people who might not feel comfortable talking otherwise might speak up. But you need to lay some ground rules for that conversation and just remind people, we're going to be respectful. We're not going to talk about anyone specifically negatively. If you've got something that you want to say about someone specifically, you can message me privately and we can have that conversation. But this is not the space for us to do it. We're not, isolating individuals here. We're talking about what we could do better as an alliance in the future. And so kind of, in terms of specifics, those are some of the specific things that I tried to do when we were hit with a tough loss.
Yeah, I think that's really spot on, man. I think that every situation is probably situationally dependent, right? I do a billion% agree with the leadership chat, speaking bluntly, and all of those things. I don't know if this is yours experience or not, but usually I'm the guy that's having to jump in between everybody. It's like, all right, just chill with that fucking that shit, like we're not doing that here, because I don't know, I got a bunch of egos in my leadership chat, minus the females. So the long and short of it is the leadership chat is a place for that, like that. Get that shit out here, because I can't allow you or have you do that in Alliance chat. It is I would much rather the candid slash blunt conversations, being have somewhere else. But I'll tell you this, my experience in a loss event, whatever that loss event is, and I've had my fair share of losses over the years. I've always ended up blaming slash prioritizing participation. And, and that's not to point the finger at the guy who didn't show up, right? It's to, hey, if we were all here, like that wouldn't have happened, whether it was, losing a tower battle or, whatever the situation was. I think it's fair to say that, if everybody would have showed up, right, we would have maybe had a different outcome. I think recently we just had Wasteland or Polar with 567. They beat the donkey breaks off of us, and we had like 30 people, 20 people, whatever we had, and it was like, well, guys, if you don't want to feel like that, like you got to get everyone to show up. So reach out to your buddy that you talk to, because there's little cliques, guys. Like if you're not aware of this, there's cliques within your alliance. Like these 5 or 6 people, they talk shit about these other 5 or 6 people, and da 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 da. So like I'd like to be aware of those things, just because like you never know who's gonna just randomly drop alliance one day and start attacking people for whatever reason. So anywho, like there's definitely a place for the blunt conversations, and this is how we lost, but I personally don't say those things in the Alliance chat. Like I know why we lost every time we lost, and I could tell you why we lost before we lose the event. If we know we're going to lose the event, I can tell you why. So I try not to keep the negative stuff in Alliance chat, because again, it trickles, it lingers, it does all of those bad things, for a place where you're trying to promote something completely opposite. So I try to keep the negative stuff out of Alliance chat. Everybody feels the same thing after a loss, right? Everyone feels the same way, right, after a loss. It could be, for whatever reasons, but everyone has a very similar feeling. So I don't think you really have to hone in on that. Everybody feels it. Everyone knows or should know, that we didn't want to lose that event and we could have won it, right? If that were to be the case. So I think whatever message, and I'm a message sender, so I will do put everybody in a group chat and I'll lay my thoughts out. Here's what happened, guys. Here's what we could have done better, and I will allow, give us a goal. Whatever that is, hey, this coming frenzy, whatever, let's use what I was talking about earlier, with using like a Doom event, to make sure everybody comes online, on Sunday for at least the potential of an attack if the enemy's going to give it to us. If we're doing those things, I'm going to give us a certain place and time for us to show up, and it's so, I think it's cool how everybody shows up, Recently, I had a tiff with Ronaldo, right? Plenty of you guys are aware of it, and there are some videos that were made. I sent that to my alliance. Usually we get 80, let's say 80 people on average in an Elite War. Those Elite Wars that we had with Ronaldo, we had 90 plus online every time. Why, do you ask? It's probably because I asked. Hey guys, I got somebody out there being a little disrespectful to me. Let's go ahead and show them what we're made of. And, look at the participation numbers. It rises 12%, So I always try to just give a goal that's coming in the very near future. Whatever event's coming in, say, 3 to 4 days, let that loss linger, because I also think that losses, should be able to get you to the next level, right? When you lose, you should come out swinging the next time around, again, not to continue to poke on the 904, 910 thing, but 904, I'm anxious to see what they do over the next 4 months. I really am, because they're an awesome nation. They're led well. They have great players, all of those things. So, I'm anxious to see what that looks like. They just went through, a little bit of a loss. Now they get to rise to the occasion. So those are the things that I think, sets the next guys apart. And it doesn't even matter if 904, it could just very well be 910 is, now stronger than them. I don't know. It's a 900 nation, so don't quote me on this style of shit. But sometimes other nations are now just the thing that's out there, right? So, it's just how you react. It doesn't mean you have to win the next go around, but you definitely want to show up. You definitely want to make sure that you're not getting punked, and and everybody's kind of again on the same page. The near goal, I think, is always something that worked really well for at least my teams, and I used 425 and 357 as examples when I say that, because it's happened in both nations, and I think I lead both nations for the most part the same way, and yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, LG, you mentioned 904 and 910. I believe Safe is viewing right now, and I think there was something that he mentioned he wanted to add to the conversation.
Hi, LG. Hi, everyone.
How you doing, Safe?
Hi, Saif.
Doing great. I think I wanted to say what I wanted to say wasn't related to the GC. It was about when Lead God was speaking and Big Bird was speaking about you learn from your losses. You don't learn anything from your wins. So you have to be like a good loser to win. The only reason we won our GC was we heard the critics. Like everyone told us, you guys came up, your strategy was not good. Like they clearly, like all my friends, they told me your strategy was not good. You need to play all 3 rounds. You cannot go against 904 and just give them 1 round. No one wins GC if you don't play 3 rounds. So you need to listen, and ask questions, and then fix them, and you will be able to win. That's what I wanted to add.
I agree, man. I think that most successful people in life and in game have accepted losses, and I'll tell you, I've accepted plenty of them in life, and because of those losses, it makes you the person that you are, right? I wouldn't rewrite any of my experiences, so.
Lead God, what we did was we searched into our nations for players that will, our weakest is round 1. We don't have players that will play round 1. Round 1 is 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. 4 a.m. where we are. So what we did was we reached out to the second alliance, we reached out to the third alliance, and we kicked some players that are not going to play round 1. We all removed them from the main alliance. So we brought players from the second and the third, and that was what surprised 904. Like me and another guy, we set our alarms 4 a.m. to play round 1. So that we caught them by surprise. Everyone knows we don't play round 1, but this time, we've set our alarms and we did it.
Great job, man. You know, I think that a good amount of people gave 904 the win before, the thing even started. And, great job. You know, the preparedness and, and the strategy that you guys took into fighting those guys clearly paid off. I think that the recruiting efforts that you guys have done over there in 910 are also helped you significantly. But the long and short of it is you guys went through a loss. You guys put all the cards and all the chess pieces on the table, and you figured out a way. I think that 425 does the moving of players very similarly. To what you just described. We don't necessarily just kick players out. We call it movement. They know that they're moving, to the next alliance or whatever the case is. What we try to do, and I don't think it's a secret, but in GFK, I want, not necessarily in this order, but I want 100 people online from the strongest to the weakest, based off of the nation and who's able to be there. I'll tell you that you can win GC with 2 rounds. It does make it a lot easier when you can grab 12 to 20,000 points in your weakest round. Using yours as an example, Saif, I think it was round 1, you guys grabbed like 16,000 points or something like that. That's a good little, squeeze of points when you don't, that's not your strongest times. So I know for us in 425, we had problems with round 2 for the longest time. But once we started moving in this regard after merger, it allowed for round 2 to, acquire a couple of players, from GFK, which is the number 1 alliance, into the second alliance. And I'll tell you, ask some of the guys from 373, man. I had leaders from 374 and leaders from 373 reach out to me and give my second alliance a shout out, hey man, don't let anybody say that 425 is only GFK, because Mott will come and with 60 guys and they will show up and they will fight and they are led well and all of those things. So I think it's nice to get those remarks, from other nation leaders that I respect. But again, using these, everyone's got a different tactic, and strategy and preparedness is 100% a thing. I said this a bazillion times, I feel like at this time, but a prepared warrior never loses. I've yet to come across a prepared nation, that is on the same page that loses. I just haven't come across it just yet. And I think that happens in real life. If a couple of different armies from different nations, are going against each other, whoever's more prepared is likely going to win. And I think that bodes well in this game as well. It's really no different. So again, man, great job, 910 GC winners. You guys did your thing, man. Congratulations. Continue to do it, because just know 904 is going to come back and try to take that thing in 4 months. So be prepared.
This time they know how. They know how we played, so they will not be surprised. Next one will be interesting.
Correct. So it'll be fun. It'll be fun to watch on both fronts. Those are 2 nations that I respect. My buddy Tariq, is good friends with a couple of you guys over there in 910 and speaks really highly of you. I like you guys out there, man. Congratulations. You guys deserve it, and it's a clear example of having a strategy and getting it done is a good feeling, and I'm sure you guys rejoiced, when it was all said and done.
Yep, it was amazing.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to say when when you take that L and the team comes together, figures out a way to beat a specific entity, right? So, 910 specifically had to go after, the round 1 issue, whatever that was, so I think it's a really great opportunity for a lot of other nations to, use that as an example, just to say that, You know, it's like when you do take an L, you know, because 904 was what, 3 GC time winner, I think, something like that. You know, when you're faced with an obstacle, get everyone to lay out everything on a, you know, on the table and come up with a plan. You know, it's a great feeling, you know,
Yeah.
to make it come through.
Lead God before 904 became 3 times winners. It was 910 winning GC. So it's like it was a long wait to come back to win it. Because the merger.
That makes it even better, man. That makes it even better. I forgot that you guys were winning in the very beginning of your guys' nations. So
Yeah,
that's even better to know.
We got a bad merger, so it was difficult to build back.
Yeah, man, I've been there. I've been there with the fight and struggle of you know, trying to get that first one was difficult for us. You know, I felt like every season for years, you know, we attempted to get there, and then there was a handful of years where we just couldn't, not years, but seasons that we just couldn't compete, you know, because of merger or whatever the case is. So I know the feeling, man, and again, great work to you know, fight back and you know, get back what was yours, you know.
Thanks, and you're a legend, and we continue to learn from you. Thanks for your time and for everything you do for the community.
Love.
Is there anybody else that just recently won GC or anything like that went through something similar? I think everyone else was pretty much already set, if I'm thinking about it. No one else really flipped the tables.
84 from 993 and Roma from 989. There's a new champion over there.
Yeah, these are some of the newer nations that I'm not necessarily caught up with just yet. There's plenty of them, I feel like. Definitely plenty of them.
I think, though, to your point, LG, even the nations that are going on their third or fourth, they have a similar origin story. There were some losses before they could get the wins. I know that was true for 621 and 524 as well. So, and I think you just mentioned that was true for 425. I know Baby has mentioned that was true for 255. It was a while ago, but you know, there's a similar origin for a lot of folks. Even the ones that are winning now repeatedly, they had to take some tough losses to get to that first win.
Yeah, those are. I think those losses. You know, is what creates the motivation and the energy to get to the next level. You know, I mean, I know that's what happened to me personally. You know, the losses that I've taken in my life. You know, whatever has fed me to, you know, whatever, rise to the occasion and get to the next level in business and, you know, all that fun shit that we talk about. It translates right into the game. You know, that mentality that fuck, man, you know, what am I going to do now? You know, am I going to sit here and cry in the corner, or am I going to fucking put my head up, shoulders back and fight, you know, to get to the next level, whatever that is. So I think that mentality is, you know, something that is probably very common, specifically, like you said, in the nations that are probably winning now. You know, because I believe it breeds that, you know, that energy, that motivation, that, you know, camaraderie, all of those things that we talk about in this game to, you know, again, get to the next level. And it may not even be winning a GC, because, you know, You know, like those are all, you know, again, up for interpretation. You know, it could dumb it down to, you know, your elite war fucking that you got coming next week against some random, you know, fucker that's been challenging you and point whoring you for the last 6 months. Because I feel like that, you know, there's always a team out there that just so happens to challenge you every couple of weeks. You know, like you want to be able to eventually beat those fuckers if you can. You know, if it's in the cards. You know, sometimes it's not in the cards, and that's okay too. But if it is in the cards and it's just about putting your team together and you know you can win, like, come on, man, like you should do that. You know, and then everybody should rejoice when you get to that you know, thing that you're looking for, and then it continues to get better and better as you know, as you feed off of that, because you should feed off of it. Right now, 425 is fitting off of, you know, another GC win, you know, and you know, all the little things that are happening. Got a couple of cities available, so I'll shout that out. You know, if you're trying to join 425, come on, give me a little text. Got a couple of cities available. But like at the end of the day, you got to feed off those things, and don't rest on your laurels, guys, because you know it can you know, get you to the next level if you are just a step behind. You know.
And I think another point on analyzing your losses, for EW, it's easier, right? There's a recording. Study the recording. You know, the folks who are your EW brains, study the recording, figure out what went wrong, and really break it down, dive deep on kind of the available information. For other events, I think it's more battle reports. You know, what was working, what wasn't. There are some lessons to be learned. And, you know, if you've got the ability within your alliance to record your events, and it's one of your priority events, start recording them. And, you know, and then take a look at the tape afterwards. There's a lot of things that you can learn after the fact by watching it over and over again. It's the same way that people talk about for uranium mine testing. People look at these reports over and over again. That same mentality of reviewing the available information and improving from it can apply to events as well.
Yeah, I agree, bro. I agree. I'm a sick fuck. I don't like record like voids or stuff like that unless I feel like we're about to burn a big city and I'm trying to get Woody a video or something. But uranium in mine, I think I said this called podcast ago. I'm a sick fuck. I screen record, I slow it down, I slow-mo it, I do all of those things, and it's I want to know why that, I don't know, that batch of filler just got zapped out of nowhere and I didn't see like what hit it. Like I want to know why. I want to know what these troops are doing, why they're doing it, why did this thing wonky walk over there to the right for no fucking reason. You know, like I want to know these things, you know, to the best of my ability. So yeah, I 1,000% agree. I do understand the game, you know, and I understand the troop types and things like that. So, you know, yeah, I definitely do that. I watch the Elite Wars, even the ones that we win. You know, I think that it's, you know, I think other nation leaders have told me that, you know, that I think Baby actually told me this recently, that I shouldn't share my, you know, my Elite Wars on my nation chat because, you know, people can see our strategies and, you know, blah, 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 crapola. Listen, man, there's 2 or 3 nations out there that can beat us in Elite War. Okay. So I don't think knowing our strategies or different strategies or not, because there's a good amount of them, it's not the same thing. So I don't think that's really going to change. I would rather promote, you know, like showing everybody, look, we got 90 motherfuckers that are ready, bro. You know, like, and everybody should know that. You know, we got 90 motherfuckers that are ready. And then I also think it's great for the other alliances, you know, like they see it. You know, like we have 2 other alliances in 425, and there's a couple, you know, that are whatever warrior type alliances, and those 2 alliances like to like challenge each other in Elite War, right? You know, they're not the craziest, you know, whatever, top 100, top 200, whatever you want to call it, but they like it's fun. It's fun. I don't know. It's cool to see that you can bring, you know, 60, 70 people online together, you know, like, and for me as a nation leader, because I'm also, a nation leader, right? As opposed to just an alliance leader. Call it an R6 if you'd like. Some people like to call it that. But I'm also a nation leader. So it's nice for me as a nation leader to see that style of participation happening in alliances outside of mine. It also keeps me a little warm and fuzzy knowing that if I need to bring other players here, I can. If if we do have call it a slew of people, leave the game in a short period of time, I can 100%, acquire quickly, some other warriors, right? So, again, as an R6, like there's a place and a good feeling to see all these little things happening, so I like to share my elite wars and stuff like that in our nation chat because it shows the others, not only other nations, but our other alliances in the nation that, like you want to promote participation. You want to promote everybody fighting together. Like, sure, there's some idiot sticks like myself flying around on the board and spending money, right? But a majority of our team is walking together, playing together, and that's the mentality that I'm trying to organically put out into the nation, right? That's, obviously everywhere else I'm saying it, but, I'm not only just saying it here, but I'm trying to, promote those things in my own nation. It's just like, hey, man, this is what we're doing over here in GFK, like you guys should be doing the same things, and they do. Not to say they're competitive or not because of whatever number of reasons, but, it's nice to see when they do share their own, and I watch it and there's, 70 people online. It's like, oh, okay, it's cool, man. Like they got some people over there, so it's nice to know.
Yeah, I think I would jump in on that. It is so important for the top alliance, or more specifically the leaders of the top alliance, to in some way know what's going on with the other alliances, celebrate those other alliances, and prop them up as much as you can, because where no one is replacing we'll see what happens with merges, but I used to say in 459, the one thing that we can't replace as a resource is players. And today's star in a secondary alliance might be tomorrow's new hot player in your top alliance, and I think you want to have a good relationship with your other alliances, and one of the ways you can do that is, as LG says, you can say, listen, I'm paying attention to you guys, I'm watching you guys, I'm celebrating you guys, I'm excited for you guys. And, especially for a player like you, LG, I think there are probably players in your nation who get excited about the fact that you're excited about them. You know what I mean?
For sure.
So I think that doing those things really pay off long term to the extent possible. And I know I've played in some nations where the first and second alliances did not get along, and so that was more challenging. But if you've got that right setup, try and promote everybody. A nation is more than just the top alliance, and the top alliance needs to be the one emphasizing that message, because it will be more meaningful coming from the top alliance and coming from the top alliance leaders.
Yeah, I think, a point to make with, because a bazillion, I can pick out 3 to 5 players that are currently in my second and third alliance, that if you took them out of that alliance, brought them into GFK on today's date, they would be a top 10 player immediately, right? Because they're definitely top 10 players in their, as a nation, right? But they're in other alliances. It is, it's great to think that that's available, but I'm just use 425 as an example. I think what happens is they like the limelight that they get of being like the number 1 player in their alliance. But if they come to GFK, they're the number 8 player, and they don't get the same, oomph maybe, or wow about the wonky report they just shared. You know what I'm saying? So I think that that definitely plays a part in the, gathering players into the number one alliance because people like to be seen. So, just to take it as my own, a tidbit, if you can create a place where the 30 rank player is getting some shine, I think that that'll really, really generate a place where others will want to come and stay. I think I'm a little bit different in 425 because the main reason we don't have like a quote super alliance is because Mod is Japanese. Not to say that times don't fare well together, but Japanese won't leave the lower 30 on the board alone, if you know what I'm saying. So if like we were to merge, right, I would take like say 20 of their players and the other 60 would probably not be left with much, right? If I'm talking about Mott specifically. So in a world of, you're wanting to have these like super alliances that are out there, like 425, I'll tell you, man, it's not a super alliance. Or like what GFK, is like not a super alliance. So we can get better, I think, if we were to do that. But I also think if we were to create this quote super alliance that would potentially be available, I think that we would lose 40 players like probably overnight. And I don't think that's probably what's best for, as an R6, you're a nation leader per se. I don't think that's the best, course of action. I'd much rather have a place where I can call upon them. Like at any point in time, I hit the leadership chat of 425, which includes the leaders of other alliances. And, hey, we need you, we need you. We recently got challenged by 555 3 times in a row in Elite War. Man, I cannot lose 2 of those because if I do, I now become their bitch, right? So guys, I need you. I need you to come hang out for a couple of weeks. I need you to get through this fuck shit that these guys are trying to, whatever. And then you guys can go on your way. And sure as shit, man, no issues. Not even a question. How long we got to stay? What do you need from us? Blah, 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 blah. And we brought 15 or 20 of those guys over to us, the strongest, and it was a cakewalk, to say the least, right? And that's the type of breeding ground that I have, in 425 anyway. I can call upon the team outside of our own, and they come. It's it's almost like a country, right? It's like, yeah, we can, have, I'm here in Florida, right? And we got so-and-so up there in New York, whatever. But man, I'll tell you what, man, if some shit were to go down and somebody else were to come to the beaches of South Florida, like, bro, like we're all coming together and we're going to fuck some shit up, And you're not going to invade us. Let's just leave it at that, right? So like these are some of the things where I take real life perceptions and I just try to put them in the game. It's like if we can all just be together and be this breeding ground and be ready, it works out really well. And it does in 425 anyway. But I do think if we were to create a super alliance, I think I would lose like 50 players. It was a thing earlier we were talking on Woody's chat, looking at the numbers in GC and how bad they are, and the game numbers are down, because the only nation with 250 was 255. Fucking those cocksuckers, but shout out to those guys doing their thing. The only nation with 250 was them, that meant to fuck, Now I know I had like our best rounds in 425. We had 165-ish, but I do know that there's, about 210. We're 210 if we really come hard. Like I know the numbers. I have the spreadsheets, right? So we're 210 if we come hard. We can't get 250 in 425, whereas, a 255 clearly can, right? In all 3 rounds, mind you, not just and we're a 2-round GCs, like for the most part, we play 2 rounds. So like these are style of things where, I think that it goes, completely against the grain kind of, but it also like if everyone's ready, you need to look at these numbers and say the fucking numbers are down. There's GC winners out there that are winning with 110 people. Now, mind you, I know that that's like potentially merger related, but it's so different than what it was, I don't know, a year or so ago, right? Maybe somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the numbers that are participating in GC, even for the nations that are participating, like even looking at the 910, 904, looking at all 3 rounds and things like that. Round 3 is the best for 9-10, and they had 165ish, I believe, was also their number. So like I don't know, maybe it's something to think about, but it's definitely the numbers are down in my opinion in these nations. So we've lost some people, over this. I don't know, maybe with all these new releases this last year. I don't know what it is, but we've definitely lost some people, man. We want to pay attention to it.
Yep, there was a lot of new releases, so you cannot push everyone to buy everything. So everyone needs to go at their own pace and be comfortable with playing and have fun. Just play and have fun.
Agree. If you're playing, you should be having fun, which will probably lead us right into what we were talking about this morning. You need to be having fun on Sundays, fuckers.
As a leader, your guys are. If it's an intense matchup, like they're spending heavily, so you should tell them take a break, relax, and just have fun, so you don't lose them, because they will get burned out if you keep pressuring them to perform in every event.
I think.
I mean, especially if the pressure is there. I agree. If it's one of those style of players that are carrying a nation, that's going to be short lived. Trust that. That gets old really, really fast. Especially for the guys spending money, and so yeah, the carrying of nation gets old real, real fast. So promoting that participation, getting everybody involved, alleviating some of that weight off the shoulders. Yes, allowing people to take breaks or promoting the break if they need it. Just making sure that somebody has access to their city or they're able to be communicated with to make sure that they have shields during events, that are needed. But outside of that, yeah, like there's plenty of players that I've had over the years that have taken a break or, whatever. And, they come back and they hang out for 6 months and then they take another break, and that's cool too. So that's why I always leave it with people, as I discussed earlier, when they provide that message. It's been a pleasure, love you, blah, blah, but you're always welcome. You have my Discord, just, hit me up. And if we have a city, man, I'll make sure that you're back like immediately, like no questions asked. So that's definitely happened, a handful of times throughout the years as well. So I always like to keep a city on the shelf just for that reason. If you look at my hive right now, there's a city that says LG Temp, and yeah, it's ready to go. So like,
Bishop, quit your bullshit.
I'm like, how much gold is in that? No, I'm just kidding.
Nah,
I'm just kidding.
nah. There's maybe 50,000 gold.
Well, yeah. So, anyways, I was going to say, touching on the losses and stuff in leadership, one thing that I think I struggle with, and mind you, I am an R1, but when we're in an event and we're trying to, and this is, and I'm speaking on non-priority events, I've been trying to let go of my competitiveness and let it be more of a, a learning platform. As we're trying, and this is something we've discussed in leadership, as a learning platform for our team to eventually we can move towards if we want to pivot and prioritize other events. But other than that, we're sticking to 2 priority events in our alliance. And but we all love KE, and so one thing that we've kind of, especially me and Holbrook, we get super pissed when dumb shit happens in those events. But as a leader, you can be quick to shut it down, and I'll be quick to shut chat down because I'm like, you guys are all fucking stupid. Like I'll just like, and I have to learn to draw myself back because one, I have to remember that everybody like one, it's a new team for me at least, right? And so, and then we've also had new people come from smaller alliances, and so they haven't had that. We haven't had that team play together. We haven't had those moments together. So at first we're all like, we're just not going to do it anymore just because like we're all butthurt. But then it's like, I was talking to people this weekend, like, it's about putting those hours in, right? And that's how you get better, right? So as long as it's not a priority event, like we're just going into KE, like we don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck if we win or lose. Like obviously we want to play, we want to attempt to play smart, but we need to use it as this field of training and grooming our team and bringing people together and laughing and having fun. So like last K, Jesus Christ, we lost by 1 billion. And we had the most fucking fun. Me and Holbrook were wasted by the time Void was over. And at the end of it, we created a hive in the shape of a dick as we burned all their farms.
I was gonna say, wasn't that what? Didn't we have to? We have a clip of Holbrook from last week. He was hammered, right?
Everybody calm the fuck down.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, everybody just calm the fuck down.
And I passed out right before, like I got off VC on another thing to get ready to get onto Montrose, and I think I texted somebody, and when I woke up like 5 hours later, I still hadn't sent that text that I sent. I was like, oh, thank God I didn't fucking go to Montrose. But
too funny.
But listen, but look, that was, and you can ask my fucking team. We had the best time, and you know what? Even the nation that beat us, like they were even like, wow, that was so much fun. I mean, we were just fucking hitting each other left and right. Like it was so fun. And to me, it's like as a leader, like we had to go from we're like, fuck this shit. We're not playing this event anymore. These people don't know how to do shit. They don't listen. But then it's like, to me, leadership is everything starts at the top. If you're a leader, it starts there. So if there's something wrong, there's something that you have missed. And so I think when we all had this talk, and we have gotten the best people in 785, and I am so excited for the future of it. And and I know I'm not the best to teach people because I'm a little aggressive. And so like, we got Beef, and he kind of went in and he starts putting out stuff. He's like, this is what we're going to attempt to do on K's, and join us if you can, but it's still not a priority. But like, we're just starting to do little things and just having that leadership and having people.
Well, you can bet your ass after this morning, Holbrook's gonna dangle the doom carrot on Sunday. You can bet your ass your team is now getting the doom dangle carrot. You can bet your ass. But I tell you, it's a good strategy because I've struggled with the same things you guys are semi struggling with, and and I still dangle that carrot every single Sunday in 357. We're a little bit more streamlined in 425, but there's plenty of times where I know a shield is going to drop or a trap is going to be created for us, and we'll just hang on to that doom for a little while longer. And you'll see it in chat, like, oh, are we gonna do Doom? And the players that are asking about it, whatever. But you can bet your ass 785. You guys are now doing Doom on Sunday. Whenever Holbrook feels necessary.
No, well, actually, you know what? I think we always try to do an Elite War or something, but I don't think we're moving our Doom to Sunday. But I swear to God, we always fucking have Elite Wars. But it is. I mean, that's not a bad play, right? Putting that out there. I like to do Surprise Uprise or do Marina, but nobody should ever let me be in charge. But no, I think it's that whole idea of being a leader and being able to still play the events to help grow the team and build the skills. But you have to You have to know how to right, like how do you say that? How to act right. I'm gonna say it the getaway. How I need to act right as a leader. Like I need to maintain my composure in a sense, right? Like I could be like fuck, or I could be like this, but I can't start yelling at everybody like I usually do.
I mean,
And then
emotion's fine, right? I feel like, a Lions chat, so long as nobody's finger pointing. Well, take that back. Finger pointing is somewhat okay in the moment if somebody fucked up, right? Again, I promote the calling out of players, right? I promote that, if you're lowering your shield without your fucking troops home, excuse me, with your troops home, there's a problem there, So if you're getting caught on the counter or something like that, your mate, right? Your friend, your compadre, your brother, sister in war, whatever the fuck you want to call them, and they're sitting next to you and they see you get like, come on, like you should be called out, and I think that that's healthy and done in a healthy way. I think that it's good. Obviously it can, somebody could share your city and be like, look at this stupid farmer fuck doesn't know, blah, 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 like, okay, like that's obviously not how we want to do that. But,
Lead God, we were having a very short conversation in chat, and I was admitting, I think it was Holbrook who texted me. He goes, "Did you get caught?" And I said, "Yeah, I did. I fucked up. I made a mistake, and I shared it with my team."
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
That was me.
I remember very specifically, calling you out that night, letting you know that you got caught and you should change that. You just shouldn't be,
Well, I made a mistake. It is a game, but they got me fair and square.
Well, they got you because you didn't prepare. Remember, a prepared warrior doesn't lose, right? So here, let me finish my thought. Like at the end of the day, you're placing yourself in a position to get got, right? So everybody, and I'll forget. I'm going to say me in my nations that I lead. If you get caught, there is a constructive way that your team should be calling you out. So you should know that, prior to the next time of lowering the shield, you must hide the troops, even if you're late for the attack. I
agree 1,000,000%. I hid the troops. What I did was I panicked and I recalled them for some stupid reason.
Yeah,
but what everybody forgets is this is a game. I have a 5, a 3-year-old, a mother-in-law, and a wife. So we make mistakes. And it's
okay. Your family's got nothing to do with the reason why you
really
recalled all.
About
you
earlier
recalled all because of
you were telling everybody with your Elite Wars and everything, like share your losses and celebrate your losses. I think that is so positive.
Look, well, lose better. Don't celebrate your losses.
Yeah, I mean, use the loss to promote, coming back to win the next one. I mean, again, I'll use the point where we share our losses of Elite War in our nation. Like it's rare that we lose.
I got my ass kicked this morning in Elite War, and the reason we got our ass kicked was they had 65 people, and we had 42.
Okay, so
that'll do it. That'll do it.
Like I asked
the
question.
You know what we did after it? The entire alliance said, "Good job. Thank you for participating." You know what I mean? Like positivity.
Yeah, allow the other gentleman to talk there for a moment, though. Go ahead, Kent.
No, I was telling him to let Hokage speak.
Yeah,
I'll shut up. I was
saying. Look, I was just saying I was the one that asked the question, and I didn't mean to call you out. I just asked the question because I heard. Just let me finish. Like
Yes, sir.
I heard something about you getting hit, so I just asked the question, and you answered, and everything is fine. I just wanted to say that the way you dealt with it, like going to your alliance and explaining, look, I made a mistake. Here's what I did wrong, and try to give them a lesson, is even going one step beyond what we were talking about. So we were talking about calling people out. I think you went the extra step. I was trying to praise you, not attack you in any
No,
way. I think
do
you went the
respect that.
extra step. You took responsibility for your mistake, and you share it with your team.
I don't just share it with my team. I share it with you guys. Like I fucked up, and thank you for seeing that, because that was the whole purpose of telling my team I made a mistake. Don't do this. And if you do, you can still text on your phone and be a part of the team. It's a game. In the big picture, it's a game.
Yeah, 100%, brother. And I agree with your points. And, getting back to the original point is those criticisms, I think, are needed in Alliance chat. I think depending on the nation leaders in the nation and the Alliance, whether there's consequences or not. I mean, listen, I'm not a big consequence guy. I do like to take people and hold them accountable for their actions. I mean, we recently, just lost a very close void with 373, and if I were to point out a specific
Lead God,
situation,
I'd like you to finish what you're saying, but I want you to come back to the
I know that you want me to
I want
talk
you to come
about
back
the
to the
frenzy stuff
consequence.
earlier. Let me finish, please, for the love of God.
What do you mean
So,
finish? You never stop.
so you have a chance to give these people an opportunity to get to that next level, and I think that constructive criticism will really get them there. I don't think pointing out people's mistakes in a negative way are going to help in any way, shape, or form. I love the accountability, using Pickle as an example, like Hawk has just said, of this is the mistake I made, and and taking that for what it is, and you should just be able to move on, right? Like I'd like to think that
100%.
everybody's mistakes that they've made in the game, I've made mistakes in the game, all of the above. So like when you make those mistakes in the game, you should be able to take it as a grain of salt, know that you made a mistake, know that you don't want to make that mistake again, and move forward. Now the problem I think that we can talk about, and maybe we can do it on the next pod. We are running about 3 hours deep, but I want to touch on Pickle's concerns without him talking, though. But like these are some of the areas where you can get, and with these constructive criticisms or whatever. But if it's a thing that's happening over and over, right? Like then it's it needs to become a learning lesson, or I don't want to say consequences, but there needs to be a line of no, like we don't allow this level of stupidity, and I think that's what happens when people make the same mistake a few times, lowering the shield without hiding their troops. I think the recall all issue that happened with Pickle there, I think that was just a holy shit, what's going on? I don't know what to do type reaction. And I've made that mistake. I think plenty have made that mistake against me. I actually love to see when people hit that recall all button against me. I get a good little smile on my face. Probably very similarly to the gentleman who got you when you lowered your city or recalled all. So like these are all things where I'm sure you're not going to make that mistake again, brother. You should know that during battle, there's probably never a time, unless you're an active trap, where you're using that button. So like I think that there is great ways to take mistakes and learn from them. I think that if you're playing this game for years, you should be able to make this mistake and learn from it and not make the mistake again. I think that if you do make the mistake again, I think there should be some sort of learning lesson from it. I'm not a fan of attacking my own nation, so I will say that.
We are human. I made this mistake, and I was just looking at the message with T-Dog about 2 months ago. and he caught me slipping too. But that's because I'm active and I play, so I'm learning. What I think would be motivational, how about any of you whales? Have you ever made a mistake, or are you guys just all perfect? You're just super rich and super perfect.
I think there's plenty of examples of whales making mistakes, my man. I mean, I don't know what that
The one
loaded
I saw
question's
this
about.
morning was a whale
Can I
killing
tell you about my
6.5
mistake?
million people. I want to
tell you-
see a whale. Did you make a mistake and are you cool with it or no?
I'll tell you a mistake that I made. A terrible, terrible mistake that I made. It was in Void, and I had people that I was reinforcing, and they were farming cities in Void, and it was a closed nation or a locked nation. And so what I was doing is I was reinforcing them, and I was leaving one fleet home, which was my attack fleet. And so somebody asked me to go kill something or to attack it because they were wanting to farm it. And so I went and I attacked a farm, and in the process, the people that I was reinforcing, they were done farming, and so they decided to teleport home, and they were sitting right next to me. So in the process of me attacking a farm, four fleets returned back to my city, and I was just devastated. I was just destroyed, and it was a learning lesson for me. And I'm not, I'm not anything like Lead God or anything like that, but it was a big deal for me. That was a big deal for me.
Earlier, what better way to promote growth than showing even the best of the best can get caught?
But League God just
Now,
admitted to it.
there's
He
not a
said
lot of
he did
people
the
that
same
ain't
mistake you did.
Here's the thing though. Whales ain't fucking perfect. They're just shiny and pretty with money. Okay, so if they get hit, it's a lot.
Yeah, there's plenty of whales out there with money that are not good warriors,
Whales
man.
are
Yeah, exactly. And
what
so
I
no,
what
but
I
it,
want
that
the
is
whales to do is share that with their team. There's such a high level of pride being a whale. We have one, but nowhere close to Lead God. But that dude is never going to show a
I
report
guess,
when he got his
but
ass
let's stay on
kicked.
topic. Let's stay on topic of the fact that as a leader, it's good to show your vulnerabilities, show that you're not perfect, show where hey, you made a mistake. This is where you can grow from it. Like how
How
that
many
builds morale.
R5s are not the strongest?
Never mind.
What do you mean, never
Yeah.
mind? It's a very simple question. How many R5s are not the strongest?
A lot.
A
A lot of
lot.
our sides are not the strongest, brother.
Exactly. So we don't need the leader to show he got his ass kicked. We need the R4, R3 who does not
Oh
want
my
to
god,
be a
that does not
leader.
make any sense.
All right,
What do you
Pickle. Let
mean?
me try and. I mean, I guess.
said it. We got a bunch of cities that don't want to be leaders. They're just killers. We want those killers to share. Damn it! Don't do this.
Well, the killers are not going to be able to share that because killers are usually the ones that spend the most, and their city does not compare to the next level.
No, it's not about comparing your LRA or MRA. It's about showing everybody play the game. I fucked up. It's okay if you fuck up. Tomorrow morning, I want to see you running Doom, running zombies, using mobility. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
It does, but it's not going to happen.
Dude, if you got good leadership, your leadership catches every mistake that your alliance is
I mean,
making.
it goes back to what I was saying earlier, and I
I mean,
you
I
know,
could
like,
go on for
unfortunately,
days.
Pickle, it's clear to most people around 914 that your specific nation just maybe doesn't have the best leadership, and unfortunately there's a lot of, hold on, let me finish for a second, man. So there's a lot of nations out there that are like that, and that's why you get the you know, the shiny nations out there, like in your globe, the 904s and the 910s of the world, you know, is because they're led well, you know, and you're having all of these struggles about egos and blah, 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 and you're making it seem to others in the podcast.
you're
Hold on, let me finish.
100%
Hold on.
wrong. You're
Let me
100%
finish.
wrong. There is no struggle about
Shut
egos.
the fuck up. Seriously. Like you keep
Young
fucking
lady,
asking questions
please.
and people
There is no
people
struggle
chime
of
in and tell
egos.
give you
We
answers.
know
Somebody
who
mute
we
him.
are.
Mute his ass.
But if you were,
No,
young
that's
lady,
okay. It's okay. I get to him.
we know who we are.
Okay, I'm just
We are
using your
not a
words.
whale nation.
You just said
But
you
if
have
you
the guy.
expect
You have one whale.
914 to go
Pickle.
against
Pickle.
904,
Pickle,
Yeah.
shut the fuck up. God damn.
I'm
Dude.
trying. You're just talking to nobody for like. Come on, man. If we can have a conversation, we can have a conversation. But listen to the things that I'm saying before you respond. Don't just talk while other people are talking. It's super disrespectful. All right. So you need to wait until others are done talking. And I don't care if I talk for 3 hours straight. All right. So please just have some respect and stop talking over people. Now I'm using the words that you said. Now don't talk over me saying you didn't say it because you said your fucking little shit whale that you have in your nation would never share a report and he would never do this. Okay. It's because the leadership in your nation sucks. And if you don't like it and you want to experience real nation, get the fuck out. All right. Like we've been saying for the last however many months we've been doing this podcast, your nation sucks. And there's never a time in the near future where it's going to be any better. And just take that for what it is. So if you want to learn for your own self, right, and your own way, your nation doesn't have good leaders. So unfortunately, you're not going to get the things that you're looking for. The things that you're looking for are in other nations that are led well. Okay, that's what you're looking for. If you want nations that whales like myself will share the L's, then come. I'm not saying come to 425 because you're too fucking much for me. But like, there's a place for that, right? There's a million nations out there where whales take L's. There's fucking whales being reset every fucking other week, right? So there's plenty of guys making mistakes. Whether they share them or not, that's up to the humble individual. Right? I have plenty of reports that I don't share because it's a point loss. Why would I share it? That's not, you know, like there's a reason for me attacking that city. It's not because I'm a fucking idiot, right? There's a reason for me attacking that city.
By no meaning, you're an idiot. By no meaning. I was saying share it. So we learn.
So you need to understand, Pickle. And I think what frustrates most people is the over talking. Right? If you have something to say what you need to say, then shut the fuck up, let somebody respond and have a proper conversation like grown adults where nobody oversteps anybody else talking, because it's super rude and disrespectful. Now, when you see just a tad bit, that's when you chime in. But specifically with 914, bro, your nation sucks. Okay? So don't be upset with the inability of your nation to fill your cup of whatever filled because you're not getting what you're looking for. If you want what you're looking for, unfortunately for you, brother, you need to go to another nation, period. And you can choose from a bazillion of them out there, you know, and that's just, you know, but I do think that it's great that you took that next level and, took that recall all on the chin and used that as a learning experience. I do think that is a good thing, right? I do think that nations like yours that do suck should lower their shields on Sundays on Frenzy Sunday, and everybody should get some free shit from Camel. And the good nation that is fighting your nation should be able to get some cool reports fucking up everybody in your nation, right? Like, I think that is what should happen in the nations that are not competitive. Right? Getting into the conversation from this morning on Woody's podcast, I think we should do whatever is possible out there to promote fighting on Sundays, you know, and if that leads us to, you know, the nations out there that are for the most part taking L's, waiting on mergers and all of those things to promote the potential next breath of fresh air into the game. I know there's plenty of nations out there that need a merger, to become competitive against X. So if we're able to wait that out or whatever the case is, but until then, bro, let's have some fucking fun. You know, like literally people are not showing up to do anything, you know, and it's crazy to me how we can cry about it, whine about it and all of those things. And, you know, in these losing nations, i.e., you know, a bazillion of them out there. Again, there's only really 20 or 30 great nations, good nations out there. Everybody else is kind of fighting for second, third, fourth place. Those nations should be fighting.
You're like the number 1/2 player in the game, and you say be respectful and wait for a gap. There are no gaps.
This is my fucking podcast, brother. Understand that. Understand that. Please, for the love of God.
So is your podcast open for discussion, or just what you say and that's it? We're done.
No, it's open for discussion in a respectful way, man.
Let's discuss, man. I got questions, dude. I got questions.
Pickles,
Okay, so
your problem is you
what's your
ask a
question?
question and then Lead God or somebody else talks, and when they're trying to explain, you just start talking again.
I disagree because I've sat here for almost 3 hours on mute. I'm only chiming in because I have questions, and we're just talking about.
Get your own podcast. You guys. Thank you, everybody, for everything. Go fucking start your own podcast so you can listen to yourself talk.
Pickle, what's your question, brother? Spit it out.
Well, my question was how to take it to the next level.
Well, you guys can't. Period. That's the answer to your question. You can't.
There's a lot more detail into that question, but like we started our conversation this morning. So 914 sucks, right? We agree. Yes?
Yes.
But we still are in that nation and we have friends and we still want to play and we still want to grow. What are the best ways to grow? And you changed the game this morning with everybody unshield 1 hour frenzy. But our shield timer is 1.5 hours. And so like that you totally changed the game with what nation rules are, but you didn't go into explanation as an R5. How do you make that work? And
I mean, you don't, because you're in the second alliance. There's really like, I mean, again, man, you guys aren't competitive.
Because the first alliance is fucking stupid, and their leader is just as dumb as me.
Yeah,
and I'm willing to admit that. I was curious.
Okay, but you won't let me answer the fucking question, but you're not going to like the answer. I mean, what it sounds like, and I'm sure a lot of people on this are going to agree with me. What it sounds like is you're one of those guys that are protecting players that don't like to fight, i.e., farmers. It sounds like you want to lower the shield on a Sunday because you don't want to fight on a void Sunday because your team will get killed. And it sounds like there's really not an answer to the question. You're literally spinning out the things that we just want to grow. You guys aren't giving us the opportunity to grow. We just want to farm and collect gold and play Doom and Zombie Uprise and lower our shields on Sunday. That sounds like the fucking leader of a farmer alliance. And I say that with the utmost disrespect. So like absolutely, I wouldn't, if I were the number one alliance, I wouldn't let you guys do anything either, but I would probably kill you guys because of that mentality. I would probably just tell my team to light you guys up, and I say that again with, bro, you guys need to stop that shit because the mentality's wrong. You made a comment earlier that, you guys had 15 in an attack and you guys lost. And then your number one alliance, they got mad at you and told you to stop because you're fucking leaking points. But then you followed it up with 20 minutes later, man, if we could just lower shields, I'd have 60 motherfuckers ready to go. And it's like, dude, I just started laughing, So I don't know what else to say other than either you are a farmer protector or a farmer yourself, both of which are bad. both of which are like, bro, eventually just stop playing the game and just hang out in your second alliance and be grateful that the number one alliance isn't lighting you on fire every day. So you could do that, or you can change the mentality, you know? And it's not just to change the game and lower your shield on Frenzy Sun. That's not what I was getting at, just to lower the shield. Yes, if you just suck, like, you might as well, you know, but I would much rather make you guys fight. That's the point of this morning's conversation is if everyone lowers the shield, you're going to promote to fight. And it's not just lower the shield and log out like a fucking farmer. That's what farmers fucking do. You don't log in, lower the shield, and log out. That's fucking farmer gay shit. No, you log in, lower the shield, and fight. That's what I was getting at. And you took it on some way fucking farmer lover shit. And that's why I went to the aggressive nature that I went this morning against your nation. It's like, bro, you guys are just losers. And that's what you guys got going on over there. And it sounds like you are a farmer protector, Pickle, and take that for what it's worth. And it sounds like your team sucks. And there's nothing you can do to grow, quote unquote, or get better, you know. And that's just the nice matter of fact way to say it. And if you want to play the game at a higher level and be in a place with good leaders or otherwise, you would need to, 1, shut the fuck up, and you would need to, 2, move nations. And now I'll shut the fuck up and let you respond.
Actually, can't.
Well, damn.
I
So
can
hit me up after, Pickle, because I will respond to you, brother. I didn't mute you. Somebody else did. And if you can unmute him, I'm cool with that too. But like, that's what's happening there, right? And
No, they were talking about you. I'm asking you a question. There are
There you go,
1,000
Pickle. All right,
nations.
all right, there you go.
There are
Pickle. Just
1,000
respond to what I
nations
said
that
now,
suck.
brother.
I'm asking you how to fix them.
You can't fix. You don't have leaders, brother.
There's 1,000 nations that don't have leaders, but we
they
want
suck.
Camel.
And they
Okay,
suck.
but we still need the game.
I don't even know what to say there, brother. Yeah, we have the game. The game's here. And
Hey,
nations
you
like
can
myself
beat
that are
Red
good,
to number
when we
one
fight,
in
here's the
everything,
point.
but I'm not kissing your ass.
Look,
I don't need you to
Pickle,
kiss my ass, brother.
You need to
Listen.
teach us.
Listen, I was in your position. I was in a couple of shitty nations. I moved away, so I learned and I understood the only way things will get better is if you move to a different nation. You can't fix stupid. If people don't want to do things, they don't want to evolve, there's nothing you can do. You're one against how many farmers you have, including the other leaders. So there's nothing you can do. You just need to realize
I have
that
a lot of
and move
respect
to a
for you.
different nation
You're
where
a
you can
great-
get
You're a
what
great
you
guy.
want.
Both of you are missing the question. 98% of all nations suck. I was asking, how do I keep this nation alive? You both are missing the question.
You
No,
can't
you're
do
not
it
listening to
alone.
the answer.
You don't
You
have the
only-
support. You
The
can't do it
answer is
alone.
leave. The
Yes.
answer is leave.
That's
Yes.
100% correct.
The
But if
answer
you're
is
gonna
leave
say-
because
if
you
all
don't
the
have
whales
the
leave and go
support.
to one nation, is Camel gonna leave you?
Listen, if you had the support to do that, you had done it already. You don't have the support. You can't do this alone. That's what you don't
wasn't
understanding.
asking-
That's
I
why
wasn't
the answer.
asking to create a 904 or a 910. Those guys are badass. I was trying to ask the best players in the game, how do you keep a nation alive with people who suck? And your answer is leave.
Yes,
I mean, if you
because
want to be
don't.
competitive, if you're okay with losing, man, then hang out with your buddies, like the rest of the farmers, man. Hang out with the farmers. There's nothing wrong with that. Plenty of people do it, as you just described. There's so many percentage of nations that aren't great, And there's always a second alliance full of farmers hanging out with friends. That's where everybody gets
you
the
have
points from.
close friends in your alliance. I have close friends in mine. We are not all whales, but we want to log in every day. Your answer is just fucking leave. Never mind. It's over. I'm gonna go to mute. I'm sorry.
Well, no, you're good, man. You're good. At the end of the day, if you want to be competitive,
I was looking for, and
you just
this
can't
is
fix
why. This is why AOO is dying, because the biggest players in the game won't teach the regular players how to keep it alive.
Hold on.
I mean,
let me say something real quick, guys.
There you go.
Look, there are so many, like you said, Pickles. There are a lot of dying nations out there, and what causes a dying nation is inactivity. And what is inactivity? Is just social media, and that is it. That's what they're using it for this game for, is to just socialize, and that's a problem. This is a war game, and what League God is trying to tell you is, drop your bubble. If you know you're going to lose, just fight it out and try to practice stuff as a team. Like that is key. This game is
Woody,
no longer.
You have 100% respect, but that he didn't answer the question. What happens after you drop the bubble?
You fight.
You get killed by the good nation that you're fighting. Here's why I said that this morning, Pickle, is because nations like mine, 425 is a good nation, right? When we fight a nation that isn't good, let's say right now, this coming week, I'm fighting 333. They are not a good nation. They haven't been a nation for a very long time. But I know on Sunday, I'm going to see a sea of bubbles for 24 hours. And I think that's fucking stupid. And both sides know who's better than each other. Both sides know who would win if we really did fight. So why wouldn't both sides just lower the shields and get some free shit from Camel? You know? And that's what I was saying this morning is if it's a clear decision on who's going to win that event in that scenario, there is zero reason for my team to see all that sea of bubbles on Sunday. There's just zero reason for that. So I would much rather see no bubbles, and I'd much rather see everybody try to kill everybody and everybody open their boxes, and 425 would still win by 30 billion points instead of 2 billion points. And I think that would be a lot more fun. And I think that, you know, again, I wouldn't want the second nation, the second alliance of that nation to just fucking drop their bubbles and log out. I think that shit's gay. I would want the second alliance to come together at 1300 server with all 60 of them or 30 of them, however many there is, and try and kill one of my dudes. You know, or try and do a tower battle or something to promote some action, as opposed to staring at bubbles for 24 hours in an event that we know who the winner would be if we were to fight. You know, it's different if it would be 425 and 621 or something like that. That would be different. It would be, you would want to fight.
You're not hearing the question.
Fucking idiot. Cut that nigga off.
Yeah, you got to mute him now. So anywho, the all that stuff, man. I want to I'm gonna end it with that. We're about 3.5 hours deep. We're gonna, you know, I'm gonna try and reach out to some of the guys from 333 that might still be hanging around over there that I've got in some Discord servers. I'd like to see some, you know, some bubble dropping, you know, on Sunday when we meet them. Just to promote some action. I'm not a big fan of the, you know, let's do a coordinated tower battle. Yeah, that's cool. But the moment you get your ass kicked, you know, I don't, you know, whatever. I think that it's not fun after that. So I would just want to promote some people to be available on Sundays, however you got to promote it, you know, and those nations out there that are definitive losers, you know, that will lose against the handful of nations out there that will just beat your ass. You know, there's no reason to hide in a shield during Frenzy. Man, have some fun with it. Try something, you know? Try something, goddammit. Because sitting in a shield for 24 hours, you know, unless you're, you know, hanging out with the family and, you know, you definitely have some other events, right? And then you should probably, you know, question whether or not, you know, you want to stay playing the game. But if you're committed to your team and you're staring at your phone for a handful of hours on Sunday, you know, during Phase 5, you know, I would want everybody else to kind of do the same thing and you know, come online with me and, you know, come up with some creative ways to kill those cities without shields. You know, I think that'll be fun and it'll create something. You know, because right now what we're experiencing is a decline and it's just not fun. You know, in any way, shape, or form. You know.
Hey, Liga, let me say something before you guys end this. So the biggest question people have is how do you get your nation to be like 425? And everyone's answer, at least the players that think that whales do it all, that's not true whatsoever. Okay,
it's still not true.
If you look at 425, you look at 717. 717 don't have a whale, but they're showing up with 60 people and they're hitting people. Whales with 60 people, and they don't have a whale, and they are grabbing people are coming to their nation because they are active, and I think that's what we're talking about. Like 425 back, 425 back in the days, and League I can probably second this. They didn't used to be a nation that had 70, 80 people. Like it used to be, they had a fight for their reputation. They had a fight for everything that they had. To get people to want to come to their nation. I remember those days. Like there was times where
we didn't have participation until we merged. Like straight up. You know, like we didn't have participation until we merged. Our merger with five, like we didn't have a bazillion whales that came from that, but what we got was active participating members, man. It was huge for us, you know, and yeah, it changed the game because we had whales in 425, but whales don't win the game, man. That's so like against like I've experienced the opposite of that, you know. Sure, like we have whales in 425, but we didn't start winning until we got the participation, you know, and we didn't start rising the elite war ranks until after merger. You know, we were stuck at 70, 80 rank, 50 rank, whatever it was pre-merger, just because of the amount of people we could get online. I feel like pre-merger, the most we were getting in an elite war was like 45 or 50. You know, so it's a complete opposite of what potentially people think. And I'll tell you, a majority of the time, I don't have to do anything, man. Like I think I've said it a couple of times, like my gold bag is just growing because of the amount of participation that we've had over the last, you know, year and a half or however long it's been since we've merged now. There's it's a complete again, opposite of what potentially people think. I mean, yeah, I spend money in the game and we're probably spending more right now because of the new releases, but that's not my experience in the game, you know, over since the inception. Was my gold bag would always, you know, kind of be in a certain area. It was usually about 3 to 5 million, you know, with me always spending essentially the same amount of money for years. So it's now growing because everyone else is picking up the bag, you know?
I also want to say another thing. You know, I have that blacklist room, right, and that explains how a nation is going to act, how are they going, if they're going to fight, so on and so forth. If you have a reputation, going into like a kill event, knowing that they know that you guys are going to fight, no one's going to be over recruiting anyone. They're going to just come in because they know that they're going to fight. And that's what they want, and it's going to be exciting, an exciting kill. But if they know that you're going to just recruit and bubble, I promise you they're going to recruit and bubble on you. So, like, the reputation of your nation means everything. If you are a recruiting bubbled nation, you're not getting any.
Yeah, you don't want to be a part of that. You want to be a part of the conversation of, man, those guys show up with 80. Man, those guys, you know, they got some good tricks up their sleeve. You know, they did this to us during Void. Like, those are the things that I listen for anyway. When I'm, you know, ear hustling, you know, about other nations or whatever the case is. You know, I like the strategic, you know, plays like Like I'm a 9-10 guy right now just because of the way they played their hand this go around, you know, like for GC. Like I love that. And I like both nations, 9-10 and 904. They're two up and coming nations going back and forth. Like I like that style of gameplay. You know, so like, but that strategy to shake things and move and, you know, and again, come up with the W, man, those are the things that I, you know, really look out for. So, yeah, I think that, these nations, you know, rely on these whales and I don't know, man, it's just different. And yeah, it's participation. And I think everybody who recruits and it does well with recruiting, I think every one of those nations, you know, shows up with big numbers on Sundays, you know, or has the potential to, you know, for that matter. And I think that's huge, you know, and I think that's part of that. That's this game. I know we have a lot of new events and, you know, we got the Holbrooks of the world saying, you know, the new nations, they do it differently and they like these events and kill events dead and blah, 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 man. I don't know, bro. I'm going to start trumping it in this motherfucker saying we need to make kill event great again because that's what this game is about, man. I don't know about you guys, but I'm an egocentric man and I want to kill your fucking troops. You know, if you're coming into my nation, blah, 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 like I want to kill your troops, you know, and I feel like everybody has that same mindset. If you play this game, like I want to kill your troops. And if your nation number is different than my nation number, then it should equal, I want to kill your troops, you know? And if it's different, like, I don't know, somebody prove me wrong, I guess, but if you're coming into my house, man, like, I don't know about where you guys are from, but I'm a South Florida guy. And if you come into my house, not invited, I will shoot you in your chest. And that's how I, again, relay it into the game. You know, you're coming into 425, you should expect to get fucking killed. And that's, I don't know, it's just the mentality, I guess. So I want to kill your troops, and I think everybody should have that same mentality. And the fact that we see a sea of bubbles on Sundays blows my mind, like out of the fucking waters. And that's where I'm at.
I think we can use an example when 736 had to go against 385 and 567. 736 was outmatched any which way possible you can think of. We knew we were not going to win, but we still fought them because we wanted activity. And the reason why they won, obviously, they're merged. They got more big players than we do, but we still wanted to fight, and we still did. And we gave them a run for their money, and they gave us a run for our money. They blew us out of the water, but I mean, going into that, we already knew we were going to lose, but we still wanted to have fun, you know. And
yeah, like I just don't understand how, you know. Again, you know, I feel like, you know, and I'll just continue to use 425. If people are afraid of dying, okay, I get that. At least set traps for us. If you're okay with losing and blah, 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 at least set traps, man. Let both sides have fun and get a couple of cool reports and, you know, and motivate both nations. Just, you know, maybe it's you know, maybe I haven't experienced as much as that. You know, maybe that's why it's demotivating if you lose all of them. I don't know, you know, but like, fucking, if you're going to lose, like why not set a trap and kill 3 million of our troops? You know, why not?
Guys, when you set a trap, even if they're stronger than you, okay, just because you lose the war doesn't mean you didn't lose something. So hear me out. You set a trap, and you practice how to bubble trap. You know, if you can get 30 people in there against one person, I'm not going to say Lee God because Lee God will eat that. But if you can get them against a semi-decent, strong, you know, you can beat them. You got to, if you don't fight a stronger nation, you're never going to learn how to get stronger and how to manipulate the wins or a loss to a win, because you're not learning any kind of tricks that these older nations or stronger nations would teach you. Like, and when I say teach you, I can say whatever I want to say and teach you, and so can Lee God, but until you see it and play it, you won't learn. And I hate to say like,
you teach with experience, man. You don't learn how to not press recall all, right, Woody, until you do it once. Right? Woody did that shit before. I remember. We all laughed at him. We've been talking shit about him for years. He's never going to live it down. And that's okay. But he ain't done it since.
Nope.
You know, he ain't done it since, at least that I know of anyway. You know, so it's like, yeah, man, like I just feel like it's crazy to me to know if I were to lose, if I'm gonna lose. And you also know, again, using 425 is an aggressive nation. We're gonna come if you set a trap for us. We're gonna come. It might take us 20, 30 minutes, you know, to get some people if it's the right nation or whatever, you know, but like we're gonna come. We're gonna eventually see it and we're gonna come. So like, and you're not gonna lose any troops and you're gonna get a couple of days of heal or whatever, but damn, man, like you're gonna kill like some of our troops and you're gonna get a battle and you're gonna open up your boxes and all of those things are gonna transpire. You know, I just don't understand how they can literally just bubble for 24 hours and do nothing. And there's like two guys popping around, you know, fighting, you know, type deal. I just don't get it.
League, I think the Nation 717 would be a better example to use versus 425. 717, like I said, they don't got a whale. And they don't win everything and they don't lose everything. But they still show up. Whether they know they're going to win or lose, they still show up and they just fucking go balls to the wall. Like, or like 923. Like 923 only lost once. They don't got a single whale there. But I'll be damned if 80 people are not going to show up. They're going to fucking be 80 people and you're not going to beat them.
And I bet you they're also fighting nations with whales, right? And they're coming out on top.
They are.
Yeah.
They're fighting nations with whales. And they're fucking. They've only lost once, and it was against another nation that hasn't lost. And just recently, they fought again, and 923 beat them. So like,
yeah. So it's gonna be a good little beef. Like that's the good stuff, man.
737 beat them.
Okay, 737 beat 923.
717.
Oh, we jumped from 717. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah, like those are all that's amazing though. You know, like that's the good stuff, the back and forth. You know, and Pickle asked in the chat, like, what if you fight a regular nation? That's even better. You know, like again, like the matchups are the matchups. You know, but like promoting the fighting is what it should be. And if there's no whale to be quote scared of, you should be, you know, fighting even more. You know, but even if there's the presence of a whale, you know, using the nation's 923 and whatever else Woody just spit it off, those are perfect examples. You know, and I've using my 357 nation as an example. There's plenty of times where 357 fights a nation that is just, you know, well overpopulated and, you know, going, you know, really hard against us. And, you know, they will come 20, 30, 40 deep against my trap with my fleet in it. You know, like, sure, it hurts them, you know, and it stings a little bit, but they win in points. They are aggressively, you know, wanting to win the event and, you know, and coming after. And I'm not an easy guy to deal with. Even in 357, I'm not an easy guy to deal with. But that doesn't matter if the nation that's coming against us, like we fought 910, I don't know, sometime this past year. Those guys were aggressive. And they beat us, you know, and they didn't care if my city was, you know, whatever, in a trap or what. They didn't care, you know. So like these are the style of things that I dislike of nations saying, oh, like you know, using 443 this past, you know, on Woody's podcast we were talking about this morning. They essentially said, oh, we don't want to fight 357 because of Lead God, like he'll kill any of us, blah 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 blah. Like, well, yeah, I mean, obviously you have to fight with knowing that I'm there, you know, but that doesn't mean don't fight, you know. And again, I watched these guys come out of Elite War with 70 deep. You know, we were on Woody's podcast this morning. They showed up big numbers, you know, they had good numbers. And yeah. And they had that same amount last week when in Void, you know, and I was watching them like, oh, damn, we're definitely going to get some action right now. Like I'm hitting Discord. I'm trying to prepare the guys. Like they're going to, you know, come for one of our traps or they're going to set up like, let's, you know, what, and nothing, man. I was floored. And that, you know, and it made me want to side with Holbrook. Holbrook's been on this fucking K's Dent thing for years, or not years, but a couple months now. And like after that experience with 443, I was just like, trying to wrap my mind. They're the most recently merged nation in Globe 5. They got a, you know, whatever, some good cities there, and they literally sat there in bubbles for 24 hours, you know, and it was crazy to me.
It is crazy. I do want to add that. Remember, we were just talking about 923. 923 is going up against merged nations and double merged nations, and they haven't even got a single merge yet.
Yeah, that's gonna be good when like that's like the when you're the last ones to get merged, man. That means that like when you do get merged and you get a couple of more people and whatever the case is, even if it's a bad merge, just getting more asses in the seats. They're probably primed to take over 910 and 904 if they're in that same bracket still. Like those are a lot of things to excuse me, consider. Because that's what happened with 425. The moment we had asses to fill in the seats, now everybody else can't necessarily compete with us. So there is an advantage in the long term of being kind of the last ones to merge in your group of things. Because if you can withstand that, whatever those beatings, until you can get what you need, I'm using 425 as an example. We've won 4 in a row now since. So, I know of a few other nations that have done very similarly. So, if 923 gets that merger with a halfway decent nation with some good participation, the other guys in that bracket, might have something to look out for. Because participation's key, man, period.
Oh, dude, whoever gets 923, dude, that is literally Campbell's Christmas gift. Like, no fucking joke, dude. Like, and it's, I think, 896.
They're the shiny fucking gift in this merger class for that globe.
Yeah, and I think
93 and 896.
Yeah, 896 hasn't got a merge either, and those are the two nations that fight each other for number one. They both have only lost one void, and they're against each other.
If both nations get a merger for next GC, then 910 and 904 are definitely not. It's not going to be about 910 and 904 next final.
Imagine if those two merge together. Fucking say goodbye. You're gonna have 3 alliances with fucking 80, 90 people. No joke. But yeah, that's
maybe something like that is exactly what the game needs. Like in each globe, I mean, to revitalize things.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're always a rivalry is good. Again, I mean, I just said it earlier in the podcast with the Ronaldo thing. Hey guys, this is what's happening. Boom, and we had a 15% participation increase. I think that rivalry is good. And a good, obviously you want to be competitive and respectful and all those things. But yeah, man, it's great to have that. And it promotes the same things that we've been talking about this entire podcast. Activity, promotes people not wanting to leave the game. It promotes all of the good things, if you have a good rivalry, and as long as it stays respectful, and sometimes it gets disrespectful for whatever reason, but if it stays respectful, man, it's good. I've had so many great rivalries over the years with non-merged nations. I don't know if Big Bird's still here or not, but like 459, 425 had a great rivalry, for a little while. 429, 425 had a great rivalry for a while. 357, 333 had a great rivalry for a little. Like, these are really, really good things, in my opinion, for all the things, again, that we've been talking about. So I love the rivalries. So, promote them, continue to, whatever. And the guys who took the last L, work on how you, go back there and win it, however you got to do that. Because, even Saif said it, they took them for surprise. They made some moves. They Well, I don't think that, they're probably going to do the same thing next go around, but you're going to have to switch it up a little bit, just a little bit. So, whatever, because 904 now knows, so I think, or they're resting on their laurels. I think that's definitely a thing. I think it's very possible for nations to rest on their laurels. I think about it, if somebody were to pop up this GC with everyone saying that 425, oh, they're going to win. I don't know, man. Like, if one of those guys really, really wanted to show up, it maybe would have been a lot more difficult, and the Whales probably would have had to push to win it. because we wouldn't have had the participation because numerous people were out for whatever reason, and we didn't move people because of Elite War. You know, we were being a little selfish and, you know, things like that. So yeah, it definitely could have been an opportunity for somebody to potentially pounce on, say, 425, you know, and I think that it's possible, you know, that maybe 910 did that with 904. And not to say they were resting on their laurels, but, you know, they were able to come out with the W. So I love the rivalry, and I hope that, you know, 904 works their ass off to go get that W back. And I know 910 is going to try and keep it, right?
Lee God, you said exactly the point that I was saying earlier today. When you're active and you fight and the other nation fights you, although you lost, you gained some experience. You gained something you can put in your arsenal. If you can obviously figure out what they're doing, you just put that in your arsenal and you can use it against them the next season or the next void or so, or next time you see them, or against other nations that you see. Like, you're not going to learn anything unless you fight, guys. You're not. Like, if 904 just sat there and didn't fight, and they did fight, I've seen it, and 910 just walked over them and didn't even need to fight, what did anyone learn? Nothing. No one learned anything.
Yeah, it's not fun, you know? Like, I bet you if somebody gave us a run for our money right now, you know, we'd be rusty, you know, and in GC, like with TA or, you know, ATA, I should say. Like, we would be rusty, you know, because whatever, it hasn't been difficult, you know, for the last couple of seasons. You know, so yeah, I love the rivalry stuff. I love the back and forth. I'm not a fan of a reigning king, right? I'm not a fan. So I think everybody should work to knock those, you know, people down. You know, I wouldn't mind somebody coming and taking the crown away from 425 just because, you know, it would be fun, maybe. You know, it would be fun. If somebody were to beat us, at the end of it, it'd be like, yo, they deserve that shit. You know, you know, and I'd have to respect it, you know, and that's all you can say.
Lead God, it would be super fun if, like, the finalists, they all just go and play their game. You're not going to lose anything. Just play your game.
Yeah.
Take the 3 minutes and learn from it. You will not lose anything.
I think there's one nation out there, Lee God, that if they decided that they really wanted to bring it, I think they can have a close chance or possibly win it against you guys. And I think you already know what nation I'm talking about.
With 373?
Yep, that's exact. I think that if they really want to,
bro. I agree. I've said it for 3 seasons now. I've been open about it. If they were to put all their ducks in a row and all the above, you know, because they're healthy, man. They have people, you know, they have people. And not to say that 425 doesn't, but they have people, you know, and yeah, it would be fun, you know. So yeah, I don't disagree, brother. I don't. But that's a leader. Not to say it's a leadership thing, because I know they're led well, and I love Faith and you know, some of the people over there. But like they have people that aren't like-minded. You know, I think Zizzo likes to do his own thing, and you know, a couple of others like to do their own thing. And you know, though they are not in civil war or anything like that. You know, I just think I think it's difficult for them to all come on the same page, you know, and then you know, what's the stamina look like, you know? So I don't know. But I agree. I think 373 is the one nation currently that could really give us a run for our money if they tried. They have the cities to do it. They have the people to do it, you know, and all the above. So, you know, they can take that for what it's worth. Yeah, because even in our GC chat, one of the guys, you know, in RAO made a comment and, you know, essentially, oh, we need mergers or something stupid. And it's just like, I don't know, man. I think that you guys could probably get it together a little bit more than you currently have it right now. And, and give.
3 is not getting a merge anymore. Like, they've got literally 6 nations inside there. Their merges are done. Like, they're not getting it. At least not until all the other nations throughout the in-game it's got their second merge. Like they're not. And Camel knows that Ram brought a whole entire alliance, and they're not stupid. So I mean that's just kind of, when Ram.
They're currently the fattest nation in our globe. They're over 20 billion BP. They are the fattest nation in Globe 5. You know, so yeah. Yeah, they got some people over there in a lot of active cities. So, yeah, I definitely think they give us a run for our money. But I'm excited for some mergers to see some shakeup, man. I really hope that now that GC's over and blah 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 here in the next month or so, I'd love to see some mergers come through. I do hope that screenshot that you shared earlier in chat or in your podcast this morning, I hope that that's true and not just somebody in the game wanting that. Because yeah, I think that any type of movement is good when it comes to the merger word. Everybody may not like who, what, where, when, or why, but any type of merger right now is, in my opinion, good. I think 429, 431 need to merge. I think even that one little move will bring some cities down. Shake up. I think that brings 555 down to us or some shit like that. So like a couple of things could easily happen just in getting the people who need mergers. Because I'm still of the capacity that nations like I don't know like 385, right? Like they need a merger, but I don't think we're getting them anytime soon. I really don't. I think that the mergers that are going to come through in the next month or so are going to be the regular organic mergers, and hopefully they'll reach down and take care of 431 and 429. I think they're the latest stragglers that have only had one merge. So hopefully Camel takes care of that. And I think that it'll again leak into the other nations that have only had one merge or no merge, like 717 or whoever you mentioned earlier. I forget the nation name, Woody, but there's so that they should get their merger, and then it'll go into the 1200s or wherever Camel left off, and they'll go down the normal course of action. I would love to see, Globe 1, 2, 1 through 5 start to merge, though. A third time, I guess you'd call it, for like Globe 5 anyway. So I think that would be great, but I'm not holding my breath. That's for sure.
I think for a second, are you talking about Globe 1? I was like, man, there's some nations got like 8 merges down there.
I think they were trolling, but there was someone in YouTube chat a while ago saying for Lead God for you to go into 255 without bubbles.
You don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I would do that. Like I would do that in Frenzy anyway, not Void. I would do that in Frenzy just because 255 beats us, and we know that. And unless we're gonna try and put the team together and come up with a proper prepared plan to potentially try and beat them, in phase 5, because I wouldn't even try to beat them in the first 4 phases. They're 2 together, and they'll all 255 will literally out farm your whole nation. Like they will out farm you, like point wise. Like it's fucking crazy the things that they have together over there. And just shout out to the things they do. You're not beating them in Frenzy or Void. You're not doing it. So, but I wouldn't have a problem in a Frenzy that we know we're going to lose, go and just lower in bubbles. I wouldn't have a problem with that. We're going to lose anyway, so why not, why not,
I think if you reached out, if you were going against 255 in Frenzy and you reached out to them, I think, and if you guys literally said, hey, top alliances, no bubble, fight it out, I think they would be all for that.
Yeah, I mean, but they might think that they might lose then. Right? I don't think that would be advantageous for them because they have a lot of troops, right? So, like, they might lose because we have a lot less troops than they do. So if they just lower their bubbles, we're coming to kill too. We ain't no suckaducks, right? But, but like, so it's very possible that if 255 just plays with no shield against 425, it's possible that they lose. It's possible that we come out on the higher end of that because of the amount of troops that they have, So I don't think that they would do that just because they wouldn't want to, put their Frenzy streak, on the table on some, we're playing around on some dumb shit. So that 255 isn't a great example, but like I have 5, 6, 7 in head of state bracket in 357. If I were playing them in Frenzy in 357, I would just lower the shield, brother. I would let them, whatever, try and kill him. I don't know. It wouldn't matter, We were not going to win. you know, and if so long as the nation knows, and it's not just my alliance, you know, being an idiot and everyone's going to make fun of us. So long as the nation knows and you tell the nation, I mean, if it were Double Frenzy and I was fighting 567, you know, hey man, well, let's just go ahead and see if you can kill my city. I'm going to go play golf, you know, and leave it at that.
They would try too. You know, they would. They would try.
Of course they would, and they would succeed. I'm sure too. You know, so like that's, you know, I think that frenzy. You know, again, if you know you're going to lose, I just don't see a reason why you'd carry a shield and not try and fight. Now, again, I'm not a fan. Let me try and clarify for the farmer nations of the world. I'm not saying just don't fucking, you know, participate and don't carry a shield and open your boxes, though many would probably do that. No, I'm saying fucking fight and lose your troops in the art of war, you know, and you know, lower your shields, but hide your troops so, you know, you can, you know, mess around and have fun with it and all of those things. You know, I think you would probably spend more money in a bubbleless frenzy or more consumables in a bubbleless frenzy than you would in a regular event. You know, I think it would be more fun. I think it would be a 24-hour chaos land for the most part. You know, I think there would be a couple of hours in the beginning of the event and then a couple of hours, you know, whatever, around 1200 or so, where you just get great activity. You know, when the event started and there's fucking 200 unshielded cities, like how cool would that be? Right? Like for real. Just imagine that for like a split second. If you're like a halfway decent alliance, you got like 35 people online, you know, like you know one of your whales, whatever, and the event starts and there's fucking 200 unshielded cities. What y'all gonna do? You know, are you just gonna start slam bamming everything? You gonna what are you? I think that would be fun.
I mean, yeah, if there was 200 unbubbled cities and walked into Void or Frenzy, I guarantee you, like if you walked into a nation like that, you would tell your guys, "Hey, fuck it, they're wanting to fight. Let's not bubble and let's just do what we're gonna do." And
yeah, man, like I think that would be great. Like no bubbles, man, just no bubbles, not a single bubble. You know.
Well, no, see, all these newer nations, they haven't experienced what we used to experience when we first started playing the games. Where
I mean, I'm just letting everybody know, and I'm letting the leadership chat of 425 know probably as I go to sleep tonight. This Sunday for kill event against 333, just no bubbles, no bubbles. The whole nation. Let's just play with no bubbles, because I think it'll be a fucking blast. You know, even if we lose, who gives a fuck? Like. You know, in this specific thing, obviously, it's not a, you know, whatever. We already lost, right, against 373. We can't win this out of state. I kind of predicated that earlier. Let me say it again for those who didn't know. You know, so we can't win this head of state, and we have a nation that we would beat if we tried with our eyes closed, I think. But I think it would be a lot more fun if we gave them the opportunity to just come in and, you know, have some fun. And so I'm gonna try it, and you know we're gonna have a little fun, I'm sure. But I think it would be just great to have the same, though. You know, it's gonna suck because I'm just gonna give it to them, you know, and I'm probably gonna still see a sea of bubbles, and it's not gonna be fun, and I'm gonna be bitching the same thing like next week, the same time. But you know, the long and short of it is I think it would be great if 425 could come into your nation and there's 200 unshielded cities, and there's 60 people ready to do something, you know, whatever that is. And I think that would be fun. And you know, let's make it happen. And with that, we are now 4 hours in. So yeah, I'm gonna personally jump off. I don't know if you guys want to.
We're like 3 hours in, but yeah. Before we go, I just wanted to say something. So I muted some people today. I don't want to be mean, but we need to keep some order into the podcast. Lead God is the host of this podcast together with Woody, as we are in Woody servers. So don't take me wrong. If you come into the podcast, you have your mic on, and there's a lot of background noise, I'm gonna mute you. If you start interrupting the podcast all the time, like the podcast is like normally is like 2 hours long, so we can't have someone taking 45 minutes with constant questions and stuff like that. So that's part of being respectful towards the podcast and all the participants in here. The podcast is not about one person, so if you do that, I'm gonna mute you. I don't care if you get upset with me. I'm gonna mute you. That's all.
I love the moderators.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's fair, you know, and I don't. Yeah, I don't personally have a problem bantering, but I know that the majority don't want to listen to it, and you know, so
You handled it pretty well too. Because
yeah,
you
I
handled
mean,
it pretty good.
yeah, but you know, you gotta have patience for just everybody. You know, I know Pickles probably had a couple of drinks. I can hear it in his voice. So let him do his thing, man. Shout out Pickle, dude. He's always around, and you know, he always he's a part of the community like everybody else. So try to give him the benefit of the doubt, and you know, all those things. But yeah, the mute was needed there, you know, at the end, and you know, I appreciate that to get on to the next topic. It was, you know, whatever.
I haven't listened to you lose your shit without losing your shit, only to lose your shit, to not lose your shit for so long. It was really enjoyable. It was like I was waiting for you to just absolutely go fucking like, you know, I was waiting for you to just lose your ever loving mind, but you started to lose your mind and then you pulled it back. You started to lose your mind and then you pulled it back. It was pretty entertaining. So
you must not have heard the one this morning then.
Yeah, it's you know, it's I mean, I think Pickle and I have like this love-hate relationship, and I you know, again, I like anybody who's trying to understand the game and do better. I think, you know, with Pickle specifically, I think he just needs to listen a little bit more to the answers that are being given and soak those in and put them into implementation before the next step, right? And that, you know, just take that for what it's worth, because everyone's got a growing pain, everyone's got a place to go, whatever. But you know, the fact of the matter is you know, it's there's a time and a place for everything, and you don't have to agree, and that's okay. But you do need to be respectful, and I'm just not a big fan of the cutting people off mid-sentence. And I know I can be long-winded, but hey, brother, you gotta wait, you know, and just take that for what it is. The keeping your temper and tolerance, though, I feel like that's just yeah, I don't know. Comes with I'm a father, so I have plenty of patience. Just leave. You know, because there's plenty of times I love to Bart Simpson choke my son, or you know.
It was really hilarious. I was waiting for you to like listen, completely lose your temper, but I literally I'm shocked that you didn't. I'm shocked that you didn't. He's like, well, I don't.
He's like, you shut the fuck up. But I was just chuckling myself. I was like, oh, here we go. What has he got to say now? Oh, it's great. But that's man. That's the drama, you know. That's the drama. We all love it to a certain degree, but I do agree with Hawkage, man. Let's be respectful to the chat. Let's be respectful to the hosts and the moderators, and let's just be respectful. There's no reason to be disrespectful. You know, there's lines that can be crossed. You know, I'm sure if you put me on a podcast with Ronaldo, I'd probably be a little bit disrespectful. You know, based off of you know, some things that I've seen, but outside of that, I wouldn't start the conversation in those regards. So I think everyone should be respectful of each other. You know, shout out Charlie Kirk. You should be able to have discussion and debate and not get disrespectful. You know, so you should be able to do those things and you know, keep your wits about yourself. You know.
Facts.
So with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and finish this football game and take the rest of the night. You guys kill it. I hope everyone had a great GC season. I hope everyone has a good little week leading into Frenzy and all that fun stuff. But yeah, man, let's try to make Phase 5 fun. Let's lower some shields for those nations out there that look at their matchups and they say that they can't win and they've already lost a portion of the head of state. So you can't win the whole thing for your nation. Get that cool little tower. So it's probably in your best interest for the growth of the nation to allow everybody to get their boxes open and, get a couple of treats from Camel and hopefully promote some teams to set some traps and, make some attacks that maybe they normally wouldn't do because there's some shields open and some cities that are willing to be attacked. And, I wouldn't suggest this on the normal stunts, but maybe even defend some. Who cares? Let's just promote some activity and people, pressing the attack button in some fashion. I think that button is a great button. I think that people should press it often and willingly, and especially if you have other like-minded individuals that are also ready to press the button at the same time as you. I think that's a great thing, and I think everybody should start to do that.
I'll
So
say
with
that.
that,
I'll say
kill
this.
it. Have a great week. Yo.
Thank you guys for all your time and everything you do, man.
What were you going to say there, Woody?
I was going to say
736.
736 Frenzy or Void will defend because we want the activity. We want to fight. We don't care about the fucking win or lose. We want to fight.
Yeah, I think that's just so much of a better option, especially, for those who didn't win Void. There was half the nations out there, and all of AOO lost Void in this head of state. So all of you guys cannot win the head of state event. I hope you guys all know that you cannot win that cool little tower or the skin. You can't. Okay? So with that being said, you might as well have fun in this fucking Frenzy. You might as well. You might as well get some free shit from Camel because they like to give free shit during that event. And the merit's pretty good too, if you didn't know. Merit's a great thing in this game. And if you fight on Frenzy Sunday and Phase 5 and your participation's good and you get a top 100 ranking maybe, the merit's also good. And you grow with that merit, and all of those nice little things happen. So fucking shake your ass, move your ass, and all those nice things. But I would definitely tell all those guys who lost Void, last week or whatever the fuck it was, all you guys, man, you are not fighting for anything unless there's a rivalry, right? Maybe, I don't know. But like for the most part, all you guys aren't really fighting for much right now. So go have some fun, man.
Why can't you win the tower now? What happened?
Well, if you lost Void, you can't win the tower.
Oh, okay. Okay, so for all the people who did win Void, they have the chance, is what you're saying.
Well, of course, yeah. If you guys are trying to win, head of state, right? If that's an objective of your nation, right? I don't want to go against anybody's nation and their objectives. I don't want to do that, But if you're, you're trying to win head of state, it's a horse of a different color. But I'm talking to all the guys who didn't win because they're, much more apt to potentially opening their shields because that's what I'm trying to do right now is get people to lower their shields. Lower the fucking shields. Let's have some fun, especially on Frenzy Sunday, especially if you lost Void last week. You're not fighting for that cool little tower. And then you could also just look at your bracket. Are you going to win the whole thing even if you do win this week? Who are you going to get in Void next week if you win? You can go look at that right now, And if you don't want to fight, that team, then, fuck, man, go have some fun, There's a lot of ways to look at it, but ultimately the end of this podcast should say something like, lower your shields, have some fun on Sundays, press the attack button, get your team together, put a time in the Alliance chat or your Discord or whatever. Bring everybody together. Dangle the Doom carrot or the zombie uprise carrot even. You know, reinforce some flags. Do all of that shit. Have fun.
Yes,
And with that. And with that, good night, guys. Kill it. Peace.
Good night.